Where did I put it?
I might have a direct line for her.
Just give it to them. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. No, that's not it either. What did I do with it? Probably the same guy who calls me every day at this time. All right, this is pertinent to the case of the state against Rittenhouse, and the media have been asking questions. There's been conversation around this morning. We had asked the media coordinator to determine possible whereabouts of certain persons because we received a report this morning from the Kenosha Police Department that last evening, well, and let me just set this background here. The jury in this case is being transported from a different location in a bus with windows covered so that they don't have to look at aren't exposed to any signs by one side or another or interest in the case. And so I'm going to call it a sealed bus. And that's been done every day, and then they're brought here to this building. And last evening, a person who identified himself as James G. Morrison and who claimed that he was a producer with NBC News, employed for MSNBC, and under the supervision of a person. What's going on? Oh, okay. Under the supervision of someone named Irene Bayan in New York for MSNBC. The police, when they stopped him because he was following at a distance of about a block and went through a red light, pulled him over and inquired of him what was going on, and he gave that information and stated that he had been instructed by Ms. Bayan in New York to follow the jury bus. The matter is under further investigation at this point, and the media has asked questions about it. That's the latest I have. And he was ticketed for violating a traffic control signal. He's not here today from what I'm told, and I have instructed that no one from MSNBC News will be permitted in this building for the duration of this trial. This is a very serious matter, and I don't know what the ultimate truth of it is, but absolutely it would go without much thinking that someone who is following the jury bus, that is it's extremely serious matter, and will be referred to the proper authorities for further action. Thank you.
Use the word interregnum.
Perps?
Very perps.
Yes.
You mean props, right?
props.
Like, 'cause,
Props, perps, whatever.
well, I mean, there's a
Word you
difference.
Crazy kids use.
There's a difference between
It's like a prop
I
walk.
think I've been
or a
using
perp walk.
perps
It's either
for
way.
like years wrongly now.
Hey.
Yes, perps
caused
is
me to
short for
question myself.
perpetrators. Joseph
Yeah.
Rosenbaum was a perp.
Props, right? Props then too. That we use the word interregnum.
I'll check out, but if any of you guys want me to send you candy from Canada, there are some things that we can get up here that not so much
Runkle, I
down
may
there.
have to.
Awesome.
So-
Safe travels.
We don't know what kind of
Canada.
candy. What kind of candy is good in Canada?
Fly well.
I think I've got a coffee crisp in my
Crunchies.
bag here.
The coffee ones are good too. They get flake too. Those are good. The
all
coffee
right.
crisps are good.
Somebody from Nestle needs to send me some cash now. But anyway, I'll see you later.
See ya.
It'll just be sponsorships.
It's the international law nerds have been very generous in sending candy from all over the world for my kids to explore,
Oh, nice.
and sometimes I share.
I have a giant box of Japanese snacks right there, including a 4,000 calorie ramen.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, the Japanese have some weird stuff, man. I was on Tim Pool's show, and he had a bunch of Japanese drinks that had like plastic balls inside them. When you shook the can,
The
it did something
Ramunes,
weird.
those are so good.
Oh my gosh!
Those things are
All
strange.
Ramunes
There's
really good.
They're a strange culture.
So Nick, have you lost the case yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I haven't, but the defense is trying, and actually, the state is trying too. They're each trying to lose their own case. It's like they played switch C's or
It's a
whatever.
race
The
to the
problem is
bottom.
nobody goes to prison if the prosecution blows it.
Right.
Right.
That's the disturbing thing about the defense. Did the judge ever rule on the video, or is it still hanging out there in space
He
somewhere?
doesn't like to rule on things.
He
Yeah.
wasn't biased one way or the other, and then he never really says anything. It's very strange.
He's a very non-judgmental judge.
It's
He basically
admitted.
said, if I have to look at it later, I guess maybe I will.
He said he would look at it if the jury requested it, and then we saw the note
And
that
then
the
he
jury
didn't.
requested it.
Yeah, no.
And then they just showed the jury anyway. So I love what he's doing, where he says, the day of reckoning is coming. I forewarned you about this. You've built this case on a house of cards. That house of cards is the drone footage. You're putting more weight on the house of cards as we go on. And yet here you are, just letting them persist with their house of cards and letting the jury see the house of cards, but only from the angle where it looks stable.
When did
And
he
it's,
morph into Hans Blix on Team America? Is what I want to know. We will send you a letter telling you how angry we are. I mean,
It's when the defense won't ask him to actually follow through on what he's saying. I mean, over and over. That's my perspective. Is just he's dangling the carrot, and the donkey won't follow. The donkey being the defense team. He's like, please just ask me to dismiss this case. Just flat out ask me and do it. But
well,
And
that's
they
true.
haven't.
I mean, that is how the system is supposed to work. But
yeah.
yeah, something that the stream probably isn't, doesn't really think through are the implications of an adversarial legal system. The prosecution is on the other side. They're playing the game to win, as is the defense. And the judge it really isn't his job to do either side's job. Now,
Yeah.
I would think in a capital murder trial, I would think that a judge might feel a little more obligation, but
You've got to protect your case on appeal either way. So you've got to make the
agreed.
calls so that you don't get overturned on appeal, because it just causes everybody more problems,
Yeah.
which we saw like in the Cosby case. People were pissed, and it's like, well, the prosecution sort of maybe promised him they wouldn't use this against him, so he didn't assert his Fifth Amendment right. So it gets overturned on appeal. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's kicking the can down the road doesn't help anybody, which has
No.
been frustrating watching this judge.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what this judge has been doing. I really believe he was hoping the jury would bail him out.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I think it looks that way.
that is sloppy judging. I don't care who's, what the case is. We pay these guys a fair amount of money. We give them a ton of respect and all this. They need to do their jobs, and especially on the hard cases. If this judge lets somebody go to prison because he didn't do his job, that doesn't help the legal system that he was bleating about yesterday.
that has been debunked and examined over the last couple of days. As you can see, the crowd, ever since we've been here, this is one day with the smallest crowd that we've had so far. That might be due to the fact that it is extremely cold today. The wind is extremely gusty, making it pretty much unbearable out here at times. So much smaller crowd, but as we move through the day, that could intensify. The media, you're taking a look at, you can see across the street some of the media set up. I'd say the media is the same, if not, they're not visibly out there right now, but as we get closer to perhaps a verdict, that will change. Now, let me wrap up and kind of recap the last couple of days here in Kenosha in regards to the testimony that we've seen. Now, yesterday, a lot of the concern was on the drone video, which is really crucial in the prosecution in Kyle Rittenhouse. And there was a version that was a low resolution version that was submitted, and it wasn't until later and they realized that there was a high resolution version of that drone footage, which made a huge difference in seeing the clarity of exactly what happened, where he was running, the direction of the barrel, the timing of everything was much clearer on the high resolution drone footage. So that was being reviewed several times yesterday. And like I said, day 2 of deliberations, it seems like that was the center of the focus for what was being examined. Now, let's talk security as well. I know yesterday we announced that the troops, the National Guard, Governor Ivor deployed some National Guardsmen about an hour and a half away from here. And we were told by some local authorities that a verdict would not be announced until they allowed enough time for authorities and those National Guardsmen to get in position here in Kenosha. So we anticipate that same logic being true today. So I don't anticipate a spontaneous announcement of a verdict until they give time. Now, also security-wise, we've been told that the National Guard, the 500 National Guardsmen that's on standby, they're a little closer here today than they were yesterday. They're mindful about an hour and a half away from where we're at now. That distance has gotten smaller. They won't be specific of where the National Guard is located right now, but they are closer to Kenosha than yesterday. Now, also security-wise, this is one of the things that was kind of trending on social media about the threats out to the judge, the prosecution, the defense, the jurors. Now, this jury is not, they're not been sequestered. They're allowed to go home. In Kenosha, a population of around 100,000 in this general area, this is a small town, so chances are a lot of these jurors can leave the courthouse here, go home, be influenced by what they see on television and on social media, although they're asked by the judge to avoid those situations. So with the jury out, small town, a little bit of intimidation there. That could perhaps be one of the reasons why we have not gotten a verdict yet, out of fear, and maybe a fear of repercussions one way or the other. But I do think that no one is, I guess, bracing for what would be considered right-wing or conservative violence if he is found guilty in this case. I think the opposite applies. Now, let me take you back to summer of 2020. Kyle Rittenhouse came up from Illinois on night 3 of the rioting and looting that took place in this city. So it was 2 days into the violence in this city is when he decided to come up and try and protect local businesses. Now, it's interesting to point out at that time, it took the local law enforcement agencies, the police, National Guard at that time as well, to actually get law enforcement agencies and people into these areas that were being affected. And that was one of the reasons why Rittenhouse thought it was appropriate for him to try to help, because then the protection fell on the people instead of the local governments here. Now, that's back in summer of 2020. You've got Governor Ivor now, who is up for re-election next year. It's a different situation. I don't think he wants another summer of 2020 with the events that took place. So, ahead of the curve, he has ordered the 500 National Guardsmen to be on standby. Now, could those numbers go up? I had heard one report that originally 1,000 was requested to be deployed here to this area, but only 500 was authorized. Go back to summer of 2020. President Trump at that time even offered federal troops to come to Kenosha and to protect the city against any violence. That request and that offer was denied at the time. So this has become a political chess move with city officials, government officials, when it comes to dealing with the violence on the aftermath of these events. And of course, we all want to see the violence be condemned by government officials and our city mayors and our governors. That didn't happen back in 2020, but all of a sudden their political careers are perhaps on the line now. And that may be why you have a closer response to getting this under control if something was to happen. Now, we spent some time yesterday around the downtown area, talking to some local business leaders here, small coffee shops, sandwich shops, pizzerias. They say business is awful right now, that locals simply do not want to come down here to Kenosha, anywhere downtown this area, due to the fact that a verdict could come out, the mob could assemble, and violence could take place after that. So business is down. I talked to an older gentleman walking by here. He said he's lived here 30 years. And not only did the violence of 2020 be something that he'll never forget, but he said the violence in this city in general has gone up substantially. He goes, you've got, times where people are just getting shot for walking down the street. And of course, that is what you see a lot of times in some of these bigger inner cities, the problem of gun violence. That's been an issue as well. It's interesting to note that the local schools here have been on virtual learning here for the last couple of days. That is in preparation, I guess, of ensuring that the danger of kids in school buses and that kind of deal. If something was to break out, at least you don't have the kids out and about on school buses and endangering their lives as well. So it's kind of quiet here. Out of all the days that we've been here, we have some familiar faces that have been here before. But I will say, all in all, today is the quietest day that we've seen here in front of the courthouse. Now, like I said, it could be a combination of extremely cold, it's windy, maybe that they're maybe have lost, hope that something will be resulted today. I don't know that. If I had $1 for every person that wanted to guess exactly what would happen, I would be rich, right? So I don't want to speculate at this point, but it is it's a different mood here today. Now, I was listening to some local talk radio stations here, and of course, this has been the buzz of the news feed, not only here in this country, but around the world. And you've got a couple theories on why they think today is the day that announcement will take place. You've got Friday tomorrow. You don't want to release a verdict in preparation if he's found not guilty on a Friday going into the weekend. Historically, if you look at different riots and violence around the country, if you do have a verdict that's against the public opinion, that seems to be a situation where it could, I guess, fuel the flames of violence and makes it more conducive for people to do that if it's on a Friday going into the weekend. So, and also look at the timing of the day that a verdict could take place. Obviously, you're dealing with daylight issues. As far as the sun goes down, it seems to that be a little bit more conducive for people to come out and break the law. So you look at the time of the day. If I was to guess, just my personal opinion on this is I think it goes today, and I think it goes around 1 or 2 o'clock, because I think it needs to be hours before sundown to allow the local officials and National Guardsmen to get in place and secure the area and show a sign of force, because that's what's going to get this violence basically taken control of and prevent, is for law enforcement to be in place and deter anyone from breaking the law. Now, of course, peacefully assemble and march and protest, that is what is the greatest thing about living in this country. But when you take it across the line and you perhaps break the law and loot and riot and vandalize, that's where it needs to stop. And that's the difference between this year and back in 2020, when that was tolerated and allowed. It actually, it was kind of celebrated by the mainstream media. They had no problem celebrating the fact that this violence meant that there was some justification, and it was basically applauded that they were taking a lot of this in their own hands. So I think that sentiment has changed here locally. I think the locals have seen exactly what this does to their local economy, what this does to the morale of this community. They don't want to see violence. They don't want to see looting. Local business owners don't want to have to go through that again. And of course, you saw what COVID did to a lot of business leaders and business owners in this country. It took them down and destroyed some of those businesses. So they simply don't want to have to recap that with an event like today. Now, I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again because it's been a big topic of discussion. Joy Reid on MSNBC. I watched that, so you don't have to. She said something the other day that was just laughable. The fact that the mainstream is on this narrative of painting Kyle Rittenhouse as this white supremacist, and that was his sole purpose, was to come to this town and wreak havoc the summer of 2020. Even President Biden had made a claim early on before there was any evidence that would support that notion. But if you look at the mainstream media right now, they have doubled down on all of that. And I personally think it's because the prosecution has done such a horrible job of presenting this case to the jurors that it has to be at this point painted as the judge is tarnished. It's a white supremacy, and that the wheels of justice are broke, and it will not prevail. That's the picture they want to paint at this point, and I think they double down regardless of the outcome of this this verdict here. Interesting to point out, even if he's considered guilty in this trial, it does send a message to other community leaders that it's simply the wheels of justice will prevail if a white man is killed, but if a black man is killed, they will not prevail. So it's almost like there's two sides to each verdict. There's a discussion whether or not it's in favor of certain community groups here in Kenosha. But let me step aside, let you see a little bit what's going on. Like I said earlier, smaller crowd here has gathered. It's the smallest of what we've seen so far. And I can only imagine that if we do, and we'll show it, because as soon as if there's a time announced that a verdict will be dropped, I would imagine this place will fill up like it's been the last couple days. So, but we're glad you're joining us, and we do want to give a special shout out, and while we have a little bit of time right now, to please go support that great patriot Mike Lindell over at My Pillow. I can't express enough how much he has done for the American people, how much he has done for this network and helping us keep spreading the word of patriotism and love of country and love of God. He's a family man, and we want you to support him as well. So go over to mypillow.com. Look, we're 1 week away from Thanksgiving. A week from today, we're carving that turkey and being very thankful for the country that we live in. And then the next day is Black Friday. That's when everyone's going to be shopping, and the hustle and the bustle and all the lines. Avoid all that. Go online to mypillow.com and put that promo code RSBN and get up to 66% off your entire order. Now is a great time to do that. There's no shipping delays. There's no supply chain issues. We've got all the stuff right there on the website, mypillow.com, mystore.com as well. It's all right there. Go take advantage of the fact that you don't have to worry about checking out in those lines. There's nothing worse than trying to find a parking spot. All that good stuff. Avoid it and go do the smart way. Go to mypillow.com, mystore.com, and don't forget that promo code RSBN at checkout and get up to 66% off. After you do that, head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter, rsbnetwork.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We will just simply put in your email address. It takes 30 seconds, and we've got a great staff of writers that are on top of all of these issues that are concerning to you, and we will send those newsletters to your inbox, and you'll stay up to date of what's going on. You can also download our app. I highly encourage that as well. We've gotten a lot of feedback on that app. At one point, that app was in the top 5 on iTunes. Let's get it back up there. So go to your Apple, your Android store, download RSBN on your phone. Absolutely free, no charge for that. And you can watch this broadcast or the live broadcast we have. You can go back and watch old Trump rallies if you like to. You can do that. Diamond and Silk's on there. Michael Savage, Red, White, and Truth, and Mike Crispy's on there. So we've got some great programming on our app. So go download it. Go check it out. RSB Network, RSBN rather, on your Apple and Android stores. So go do that. And if you're on our website as well, hey, we would love to have a donation. We are, viewer supported. We are got some great patriots like Mike Lindell and thesimplescrub.com. We got some great people we teamed up with. But hey, the person we want to team up with the most is you, our viewers. So if you would, go to our website, rspnetwork.com/donate. If you feel led to donate to what we're doing and continue to cover issues that concern you, we appreciate that. Absolutely takes a couple minutes to do that, all safe and secure. rspnetwork.com/donate. The media is starting to kind of fill up here a little bit. It's kind of one of these days where I guess we're used to, after 2 days of deliberation and really nothing happening as far as announcements. Maybe the media's mailing it in a little bit this morning, knowing that, hey, we're going to get that heads up that a verdict will come in here and we'll get an advance notice to get set up in a place to be able to cover that to you. Now, we're going to be giving you live updates on top of the hour throughout the day. So right now we're at 10:34. We're going to take a short break, monitor some of the action inside the courthouse, and then come on at about 11:05 and give you another update of what it's like outside here and some of the things that we might hear inside the courthouse. So please keep this stream up, keep it on your desktop, keep it on your phone, keep it ready. And if you just want to set your timer, just shortly after 11 o'clock Central Time here in Wisconsin, we'll come back on for another update and let you know what's going on. Your guess is as good as mine. Actually, it makes a great dialogue in our chats there. If you feel free and you got some time on your hand, let us know your thoughts on this case. Does Kyle Rittenhouse deserve to spend the rest of his life in jail? Or did he basically exercise his Second Amendment right in self-defense? We'll let you guys put your thoughts on that, and we'll be out here until about 11:05. Let's step aside, take a look at these flags that are just absolutely blowing hard out of the north. A few minutes, we'll see you back on the top side of 11 o'clock.
Don't talk about Texas or Amarillo skies. Don't talk about Houston or them Austin City nights. Don't talk about Galveston or sweet, sweet Abilene. Don't talk about Texas. Hey, mister, can I bum a ride? Anywhere you're gone is fine, as long as it's out of town. I could even fill your tank as a way that I can say thanks. I'm feeling kind.
It through their eyes, and they got disconnected from the reality of, well, the jury's going to see it through their eyes, and you have to put it in a place where they can digest that.
The second facet of what you were talking about, the first one is translating it to legalese, but the one you raised, and you talked more about this yesterday, but it's an excellent point, is make it easy for the jury to come to your conclusion. And neither side has done that in this case for the jury or the judge. And that is That is something that, well, actually, correction, the state did it at pretrial because the state wrote a proposed order that heavily favored the state. And it was so easy for the judge to sign it, and it was so easy for the defense to accept it, that they almost got even further handicapped on their own expert witness. But that is a critical element of all of legal practice, whether you're in front of a jury, a judge, doing motion practice, or even if you're in negotiations, is you don't always have to go in guns blazing. You give them the easy path to the answer that you want without telling them how much you want that answer, and let it happen. And here, that's what they had to do. Simplify the law, the rules around self-defense, or the concept of self-defense into this. All you have to do, jury, is figure out if in that situation, it is reasonable to think that someone chasing, screaming at you, reaching for your gun is a danger imminently to your life, or that they could cause severe physical harm. And if you determine that, you have self-defense. There's no other questions you need to ask. You don't need to go any further. You have determined that his actions are justified at that moment. Yeah. And then just deliver.
I mean, they're not chasing you, screaming F you and grabbing for your gun because they have your best interests at heart. Right? That's not their motivation.
I like that line. That would have been a good.
Yeah,
closing.
it would have been proper to have asked the police officers, what would you have done in this situation? Because that's what I would have wanted to ask.
That would not have been proper. What would have been proper is to say, no, what would have been proper is to say, in this situation, you would have shot, wouldn't you?
Right, because you're on cross-examination.
Yes.
That's correct. That's correct.
And by the way, that's not a necessary thing. That's the reason I think we didn't see that is because there's a difference between the Richards approach of just laying out facts versus the approach that many other attorneys embrace, which is I want to reach a jury. It's not that I'm just going to make a case that I'm getting the answers right on a test. I need to touch their hearts and minds. And if a jury hears the state's witness, a cop, saying, yeah, I pull the trigger there every time, or something which basically equates to that, that's something that resonates far louder than most things you can ever have elicited on the stand.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting view because it's when you talk about a test, right? It's multiple choice, it's fill in the blanks, but the test itself is the structure, right? Into which the answers are being plugged. And if you're the lawyer and you kind of intuitively know that structure, well, then it feels perfectly adequate to finish off the process by just filling in the factual answers. But the jury doesn't have that structure. Right. They don't know any of that. All they see is like a bucket full of facts. And until you put that in some kind of narrative structure for them, it's confusing and they're at loose ends and you have no idea what kind of verdict they might come up with.
And by the way, that's why that viral moment, which, I mentioned that I call a Matlock moment. They want to put legal bites, and the women on the panel here say I need to call it legal bites, a legally blonde moment.
I mean, I appreciate you calling it a legal bites moment too.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, but the thing is this: we all saw it. But consider this for a minute. Part of the reason that moment went viral is because of the reaction from attorneys who were sitting there watching it. That moment with Nick and Legal Bites and Legal Mindset watching it is because their reaction is helping explain what just happened in the trial. The jury does not have that benefit. The jury does not know that was the pivotal moment, which is why in closing arguments, he needs to spend 90 seconds explaining just how dramatic a moment that was, and that once that moment happened, practically as a matter of law, they must acquit on that charge for the assault or attempted murder. I'm not even sure what it is against Gage Grosskreutz, and explain to them how something like that never even happens.
Right. When they have a moment like that in a movie, the director has everyone in the courtroom gasp.
Yeah,
right? So you can't miss it. Right? You absolutely, something happened here, right? That doesn't happen in a real courtroom because half the people are looking at their phones or whatever the hell they're doing, right? They're not really paying attention all the time. So it gets missed. And we were the gasp. That sounds terrible.
Yes, we were.
I guess
we were the courtroom gasp. Yeah. Right. And that's what I think what brought people here is like, I think they appreciate the fact that when you're watching a trial with attorneys who are able to digest the magnitude of particular moments or also estimate the mistakes or tactical errors and strategize or scream objection, it gives a whole different value to what you're watching, where they're understanding, what other attorneys are taking from something that, because they're seeing something that others can't. I liken it to sort of like if you look at a house. Okay, so when I see a house, I see, I might see the coloring of the house, the frames. I might notice brickwork versus, aluminum siding or things of that nature. An architect looks at the house and they see the blueprint itself. They can envision what the blueprint.
Sure.
I'm saying is they can envision the blueprint behind it, and that's why watching a trial with attorneys is very different, and that's why you, as the attorney who's sitting there explaining to the jury is not an architect. They don't see the blueprint, and you need to explain to them what the blueprint is and why everything equals up the way it does, and why they must find in your favor.
Well, the other thing is, if you watch enough of this stream over the past several days, you'll find us breaking down into various disagreements on tactics, on strategy, on points of law or whatever. We talk through it. We might come to an agreement, we might not, and that's all good. But then at so many points, we're also unified in our various criticisms, where we're saying, and I want to call back to Ron Coleman, who put out an excellent little Twitter video last night, and I retweeted it because it was a great reminder that we don't have the full story. We only have what we see, and it's important to remember that. But we're asking, we're all in unison asking, what's the full story that would explain this, you weirdos? Why are you not jumping up on the table, ripping your suit apart right now, going, Judge, just rule on this motion for once in your life. Rule on the motion.
Your trips to court have been very interesting.
And that's why I think, and a lot
they're
of us,
biblical. They're biblical.
We've also tried to play devil's advocate whenever we can too, just to sort of check ourselves a little bit, because it is, I mean, especially after how we've been doing this for how many days now, it's very easy to start to get yourself into this sort of silo of yes, we all agree with one another on everything. And, we see things exactly clearly, but it's so taking a step back and sort of trying to figure out where the weakness is and how we're seeing it, where those weaknesses are.
That's part of the process every day of being a lawyer, honestly. And that's why I hope the viewers here are enjoying these conversations. Is you say we agree occasionally, and we do, but as I like to say, you get enough lawyers in a room, you're going to get however many lawyers you brought, that number of opinions on most issues.
Yeah,
and this happens to be
good.
one topic where a lot of us that have shown up on the stream, I mean, or all or most or all of us have agreed on a vast majority of these topics, but we can get on to other subjects and disagree very quickly. And that has shown on our various collaborations that we've done.
I think the women's national soccer team should be paid the same as the men's. I think that should happen. So I'm in disagreement. But that's because,
so in other words, you want the women to get paid less than what they're getting paid right now. Is what you're saying.
No, I would never say that.
Well, you just want justice, Nick.
Yeah, that's right. No justice, no peace.
Well, this does point out the thing, and all of us acknowledge this. We're not in the courtroom. We're not actually with the guy that could go to prison sitting beside us. And so all of our comments should be read as a form of Monday morning quarterbacking. Sure. But a lot of times it's just us going, why didn't they do that?
Yeah.
Talking to each other.
We're wondering. We're genuinely curious. Could there be an explanation?
Yeah, mistake or strategy is kind of a game we play, because
some of us like Joe are yelling, but
yeah, well, when you're screaming object, so it's that's the first thought that's going through your head, and that's what you would do given in just objectively, but under the subjective constraint of there could be other reasons that he knows about his particular trial or his strategy that objection would be inappropriate in that moment. So you're just saying so he basically should be going through the thought process of, I should be objecting here, but I'm cognitively deciding not to object because of these subjective reasons that nobody outside of the courtroom could possibly know about. But
whether or not it was the right decision.
Welcome to Crime Circus. Tonight we have a police body camera to watch. So let's watch these two drunken male Karens, and I promise the babysitter interrogation is coming soon.
Hello, sir. Officer Lazarus, West Dallas Police Department. You don't mind pulling over today? Nope. Okay. When you turned on to 60th Street from Greenfield, you didn't use your turning signal. All right. Do you have your ID on you?
I do, but
What's that?
I do, but it's like literally right behind my buddy's seat right here.
Okay.
Don't really want to reach for it.
I got you. Are there any weapons inside the car?
Absolutely
No.
not.
Okay. Where are you guys coming from today?
I don't have questions.
You don't answer questions? Okay. Anything to drink tonight, sir?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Well, I'm gonna need to identify you, so you have your ID on you?
If it's behind him, but I don't want to reach or anything.
I got you. Sir, do you have your ID on you?
Do you need mine?
I do need yours.
If you need mine, I can give you mine.
Sure. Is there a reason that you didn't use your turning signal when you turned onto 60th Street? Sir? Driver? You don't answer questions? Okay. I'll take your ID if you just want to pass that over to me.
Do you need mine?
I do need yours, yes.
Why do you need yours?
Because, sir, he's not wearing a seatbelt, and neither are you.
No, I just took mine off because you pulled me over.
That doesn't make any sense, sir. I'll take your ID.
No, I understand you, but...
Okay. Driver, do you have your ID on you?
Am I allowed to reach?
Yeah, go ahead. Where is it? Why don't you tell me where it is before you reach?
So it's right behind my passenger.
Where is it, sir? Do you mind if we get it since you don't want to reach?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, we need to identify you, sir. So we need your ID. Okay, does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so where's your ID?
Really?
Why don't you do me a favor and shut the car off, sir?
See that?
314.
Put the keys right here.
Sure. All right. No, I'll take your ID, please.
I don't have it on.
All right. Why don't you step out of the car, sir? Step out of the car, sir. Come on to the back. Do you have any weapons or anything on you?
Absolutely not.
No? Okay. All right, put your phone on top of the car, please.
I'd like to contact my attorney, please.
Not at this point. All right. You can face me, sir. Why don't you tell me your name verbally since you don't want to grab your ID?
My ID is back there.
I know, but you refused to grab it when I asked you for it.
Because I don't want to grab behind the chair.
I got you. Okay. Why don't you give me your name verbally then? Okay. Sir, how much have you had to drink tonight?
None.
Okay. Would you be willing to perform some standardized field sobriety test?
No.
You said no. Okay.
I'd like to contact my attorney before I answer any questions.
At this point, you're not going to be making any phone calls, okay? Because I'm in the middle of a traffic stop. We're in the middle of an investigation here, okay?
That's fair. But
So-
I don't answer any questions without my attorney.
Okay. So you're not going to identify yourself?
I don't answer any questions without my attorney.
Do you own the vehicle, sir?
I don't answer any questions without my attorney.
Okay. Are you willing to perform standardized field sobriety test because I have the odor of alcohol coming from your breath, sir?
I don't answer any questions without my attorney.
You're slurring your speech as well, sir.
I don't answer any questions without my attorney.
Okay. So based on your driving behavior, all right, the fact that you're slurring your speech, you have the odor of alcohol coming from your breath, ingest intoxicants, okay, I believe you're impaired, okay, and I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, all right. I want to have you perform some standardized field sobriety tests so that I know it's safe for you to be operating a motor vehicle at this point. Okay? No, leave the phone there. Would you be willing to do that? Sir, you're not allowed to be at your phone at this time, okay?
I don't answer any questions without my attorney present.
Okay. Would you be willing to perform some standardized field sobriety tests?
I don't answer any questions.
I need to make sure it's safe for you to be operating a motor vehicle at this point, sir. I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, okay?
I appreciate that, but I don't answer any questions without my attorney present.
Okay. Is there a reason why you wouldn't perform standardized field sobriety tests?
I don't answer any questions without my attorney present.
Okay.
Would you like to talk to my attorney?
No, why don't you just hang out here with this officer right now, okay?
A little what?
All right, sir. We're not getting very much cooperation out of your buddy here, okay? What's his deal?
He's a little apprehensive. I know he got his wallet stolen recently, so he's
Stolen from where?
I'm not exactly.
Okay. Why is he refusing to answer basic questions? He's refusing to identify himself as well.
I don't know personally. I don't want to give out too much information about him.
Okay.
He's a highest priority, national news recently. So
Okay. Okay. Well, he's a driver of a vehicle, and there is a traffic infraction, so we have to identify him. You know what I'm
We
saying?
looked at the police officer in front of us, and
That was
seen him.
that was me.
you, yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that you guys didn't use your turning signal, and you turned on to.
We were. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the driver.
I got you. Where are you guys coming from today?
I'm a buddy's house. We were leaving a buddy's house at McDonald's and went.
I got you. All right. At this point, I was speaking with your driver here. He's refusing to identify himself. I had the odor of ingested intoxicants coming from his breath in person. Okay. You know how much he's had to drink tonight?
Personally, I have no idea.
Okay.
We said we come from a buddy's house.
Were you guys drinking over there?
No, we actually weren't.
Okay. There's no need to lie. He smells like it.
No, I
Okay.
understand that.
Okay. So just be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
No. Yeah. What?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure if you guys were drinking over there?
I'm not sure if we were drinking or not.
Okay. That's interesting. Interesting. All right, sir. You're refusing to identify yourself? Okay. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt to perform some standardized field sobriety tests so that I can make sure it's safe for you to be driving. Okay. I have the odor of alcohol coming from your breath. All right. You're slurring your words. You missed a turning signal on 60th and Greenfield. Okay. I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to give you every benefit here so that I can make sure it's safe for you to be driving. But at this point, I don't feel that it's safe for you to be driving. Okay. I believe you're impaired. Okay. I'm going to give you one last chance to perform some standardized field sobriety tests so that I can verify it's safe for you to be operating a motor vehicle at this point. Okay? Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying I would like to talk to my attorney before I move on.
Okay. What do you think your attorney would advise if he was standing right here?
That's why I would like to talk to them.
Okay. At this point, are you refusing to perform some standardized field sobriety tests?
I'm not refusing. I would just like to talk to my attorney.
Do you own the vehicle, sir?
I do own that vehicle.
Okay. So if I get back the registration info, it's going to have your name on it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm refusing. I'm just saying I would like to talk to my attorney.
Okay. I understand. I'll be right back with you, sir, okay? Get anywhere? We're still okay. All right, so I'm gonna give you one last option, Gage. All right, because right now you're leaving me with nothing. You're leaving me no option here. I need to make sure that it's safe for you to be driving. If not, based on my observations, I believe you're impaired and you're operating a motor vehicle. Okay. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying?
I just want to talk to my attorney. Can you give me that at least?
What's
Let's
that?
say I'm being uncooperative. I just want to talk to my attorney before I move forward.
Are you scanning?
Huh?
You scanning?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oak Creek's for fuel car.
All right. I'm not going to let you make a phone call at this point. I'm asking you if you will perform standardized field sobriety tests, and this is your last option. I don't want to hear you ask about your attorney, and I don't want to hear any other excuse. I want to know, will you perform the test, yes or no?
So why are you pulling me over?
I told you because you didn't use your turning signal when you were on Greenfield and you turned onto 60th Street. That's the reason for the traffic stop.
Because I came to a complete stop and then turned right?
You did not use your turning signal while conducting the turn. That is why I pulled you over. Okay. All right. So will you perform the test for me, sir?
25 is Monterey South City limits.
I would like to talk to my attorney. I have a right to do that.
Okay. Is that your?
I have a right to do that.
I need a yes or no answer regarding the test. Will you perform the test? That's going to be a yes or no. That's going to be a yes or no.
I have a right to talk to my attorney.
Okay. Yes or no?
I have a right to talk to my attorney.
Okay. If that's the case, if you're not going to perform the test, I need you to stand up for me.
You don't need to.
We'll help you out.
I know.
All right. You don't want to perform the test?
I'm not saying you don't want to perform the test.
All right. Based on my observations, you're going to be placed under arrest for operating while intoxicated.
Yeah, it's
He just told you.
Aurora Healthcare Center.
What's that, sir?
I never said I wouldn't perform it.
All right. Let's walk this way. I'm going to go to the back of my squad over here. See. Do you need anything from inside the vehicle, like a wallet or a phone or anything like that? Do you? All right, guys, whenever someone's arrested for operating while intoxicated, it's required that this form is read to them. This is called the informing the accused form, okay? I'm going to read this form to you, all right? And then at the conclusion, I'm going to have a question for you. So do your best to pay attention. Some of this stuff applies to you, some of it will not, okay? Under Wisconsin's implied consent law, I'm required to read this notice to you. You have either been arrested for an offense...
Hi.
Yeah, grab a light real quick.
The stop on State National is the verbal that party.
Sergio, can I use your light real quick? My flashlight died. Alright, I'm going to start over. Under Wisconsin's implied consent law, I'm required to read this notice to you. You have either been arrested for an offense that involves driving or operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of alcohol or drugs or both, or you are the operator of a vehicle that was involved in an accident that caused the death of, great bodily harm to, or substantial bodily harm to a person, or you are suspected of driving or being on duty time with respect to a commercial motor vehicle after consuming an intoxicating beverage. This law enforcement agency now wants to test one or more samples of your breath, blood, or urine to determine the concentration of alcohol or drugs in your system. If any test shows more alcohol in your system than the law permits while driving, your operating privilege will be suspended. If you refuse to take any test that this agency requests, your operating privilege will be revoked and you will be subject to other penalties. The test results or the fact that you refuse testing can be used against you in court. If you take all the requested tests, you may choose to take further tests. You may take the alternative test that this law enforcement agency provides free of charge. You also may have a test conducted by a qualified person of your choice at your expense. You, however, will have to make your own arrangements for that test. If you have a commercial driver's license or were operating a commercial motor vehicle, other consequences may result from positive test results or from refusing testing, such as being placed out of service or disqualified. In addition, your operating privileges will also be suspended if a detectable amount of a restricted controlled substance is in your blood. So, Gage, the question I have for you is, will you submit to an evidentiary chemical test of your blood?
I want to talk to my attorney.
It's a yes or no answer.
I want to talk to my attorney.
Will you submit to an evidentiary chemical test of your blood? If you do not answer with a yes or no answer, I'm going to consider it a refusal.
As I've stated since I want to talk to my attorney.
Okay, like I said before, I need a yes or no answer. Are you refusing to answer with a yes or no answer?
Like I said, I want to talk to my attorney.
Okay, it's going to be a refusal, okay?
I want to talk to my attorney.
All right, it's going to be a refusal.
None of you guys are, especially him.
What's up?
He's asking if you lift, bruh.
Oh. There's his ID. He's revoked. No wants. Duvak, I'm in a 19 for a warrant.
Huh?
I'm in a 19 for a warrant.
What offense is it? Want to start searching? You want to start searching?
Not right now, hold on. Like, and just like earlier you said, to your knowledge, there's no firearms or weapons in the car, right?
Not that I know. At least personally, I'm not possessing any. I have no idea.
Anything illegal?
In my knowledge, I have no idea.
Okay.
Man.
That's cool.
I know Gage is a registered CCW owner, but I don't think he has weapons in his car. So.
What's that leg brace doing down there?
Oh, dude, he got his arm shot off in Kenosha. So.
Oh, okay. Oh. No, I know
Probably why he's a little
Gage is.
apprehensive of answering you guys anything. So.
You can have them step out. All right, what's your first name again, man?
I already told you my name's Jacob.
Right, step out. Keep your hands where you can see them.
You just step back here.
Step out, man.
Dude, I don't know what the fuck. I don't want to get shot.
No. Are you serious right now?
Dude, I don't trust you guys. So.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I do trust you guys. Trust you guys personally, but I don't know.
Is it okay if we search you?
100%, man. I have nothing on
It's
her.
yes or no?
Yes, I have nothing
Alright,
on
so it's
her.
okay if we search you?
100%, I have nothing on her.
You live around here?
I do. Off of Oklahoma.
Off Oklahoma?
Yeah.
50-ish in Oklahoma.
Yeah, near LA.
You want to pull your pants up, bro?
You can let go of my wrists. I will gladly pull my pants up.
My flashlight died.
Alright. Just have a seat right here in the curve tomorrow, thanks. So basically, I'm going to explain something.
I just slam like that. Just I promise I'm not going to do anything.
Okay, well, I'm just going to explain something to you real quick, okay? So, your buddy, driver, Gage, he's going to come with us, okay? So, when we're done here, we're going to give you the option of you can either walk home or we can see if we can give you a ride. 137. To get you home safely.
I'll probably just, I'm not going to drive this car. You can.
I know, well, because I can tell he's been drinking too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I don't want you to drive a car and get stopped or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
So, we can see if we can give you a ride to like 60th in Oklahoma, or it's up to you if you want to walk.
Can I talk to him before you guys?
Not right now. He'll be able to call people and probably get out tonight in a couple hours.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's really up to you.
Are you gonna trust us to give you a ride if you
I
want that
do,
option?
but like honestly, that's just fucking. I don't know. I might just I'm a fat boy. I could probably use it. I could probably use it. Burn some calories. I mean, I'm fucking eating McDonald's tonight, anyways.
Okay, let me just double check that we're done with you real quick and see if we can get you out of here.
You want to search the car?
Yeah.
Or you want me to do it?
I'll do it.
14, go ahead.
5-5 for 24.
You lift?
Do I lift?
Yeah. We have internet around.
I work out, but I'm not necessarily how would you say, a big gym rat.
I see that, man. So I see that. None of you guys are, especially him. What's up?
He's asking if you lift, bruh.
Oh. There's his ID people. It's a fat no.
You know your driver's license revoked?
Is it? Yeah.
Okay.
But am I driving though?
No, I'm just letting you know.
No, for sure. So fuck that. I don't give a fuck.
It's just for you to know.
I don't give a fuck, dude.
Lose the attitude, dude.
No, fuck you.
Oh, fuck me?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Fuck the police.
Fuck the police? Yeah, alright.
Dude, it must suck being a cop, man. Especially being someone of color, dude.
Yeah, it sucks because we have people like you.
I bet, man.
Yeah.
But it does, dude. Family must be proud. Dude, this is Gage. Let's go. Fuck the police, Gage. Let's go. Fuck the police.
Could you please be quiet?
Fuck the police.
Can you please be quiet? Because
I am
if
being
you're
quiet.
if you're being loud,
it's disorderly. I get it.
Yes,
yeah,
right.
disorderly is a very general fucking.
So
yeah.
please be quiet.
Yeah,
right?
I'm being quiet, man.
Right. No, you were shouting and literally putting your hands out.
I was telling my buddy goodbye. Fuck the police.
That's fine. You can have that opinion. That's the beautiful thing about this country. That you can have your own,
It is.
your own
But, like,
opinion.
the thing is, my opinion is outweighs most people's opinion. So it's a great opinion, man.
Alright.
Find anything cool yet, man? I hope his fucking. Never mind.
You hope his pistol there or what?
I hope it's not. 24. Yeah, dude, he's a weirdo. I don't know what the fuck that thing is. As long as it's on his fucking gun, I don't give a fuck what you pull out of there. As long as it's not my gun or his gun, let's go. What kind of gun do you carry?
I carry a Glock 17.
Ooh, you know, like Berettas, man? Got a 40 cal Beretta, man. It's a great fucking pistol. It's big though. The thing is hard to conceal. Very hard to conceal. But unless you're a big guy, you know, make it work.
Did you call for a tow already?
Yeah, I got it.
Alright.
At least you don't drive that little piece of shit car that little pussy was driving that pulled him over, dude.
So in lieu of leaving this in the car and making the car stink like McDonald's, well, it's in the tow lot. I'm gonna give this to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. That's the very least you could do. Appreciate it, brother. Fucking pig. Fellow pig.
Is that your water or is this yours? You want it? No, okay.
Let us sync it up. Boy's got $70,000 of bail money. Let's go. Am I scaring you, dude? Sorry. You already searched me. I have nothing on me. You don't gotta be like staring at me like that. It's all good.
You're a weird dude.
I think you're scared, brother.
Scared of you?
Possibly.
Why would I be scared of you?
I mean, you got a nice gun, some tactics on you, but otherwise, I'd be scared.
Why would I be scared of you?
You tell me, man. You're the one staring at me.
Well, letting you know, just
Yeah, you didn't say
I'm not
anything, so
scared
you're
of
not
you.
letting me know anything. I'm letting you
Alright.
know, like, you're scared of me. I get it.
We can get him out of here.
All right. Well,
You're free to go.
here's your
You want your ID
here,
back?
Jacob. You have a good night.
Oink, oink, brothers.
All right, man. Fuck 12, like you said.
Except, hey, besides that, you were kind of cool, but still.
All right, bye. This night can't get any worse.
You're going to buckle me in before you're driving me around?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were buckled. I will buckle you in, sir.
No, you're not.
Yeah, safety first, right? Thanks for reminding me.
Subject dropped off to 1955, so purchase 94.
Go ahead, man. I'll call for you.
Yeah, we just need to leave it.
So with the, we are recommending having.
Just have a seat in this chair for me. All right.
Yep.
Is that good for you? Okay. So we just have to wait for the phlebotomist. We'll get the blood sample, and then we'll take you back for the rest of the booking process. Yeah, somebody that can come pick you up after all this? Because otherwise,
Sir, what's your name and badge number back there? I don't see a name.
Sir, do you have somebody that can come pick you up after all
I'm
this?
not talking to you. I'm talking to you back there.
You'll get it.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, you'll get it before you leave, okay?
I'm asking for it right now.
Okay. You'll get it before you leave.
Noted.
All right, so if you don't have somebody that can come pick you up, you're going to have to sit at the station for 12 hours. Okay.
Hello.
All right, why don't you stand up for me? I'll get those handcuffs off
How
for
are you,
you.
Bridget?
I'm fine. How are you guys doing?
Just stand up for me.
Having a good night?
Yes, we are. You?
Looks like it. Yeah. Well, I just got here.
Oh, good.
get started.
All right, why don't you take your coat off? She's gonna have to draw blood from one of your arms.
All right. I'm going to draw your blood, okay? Okay, it's going to be real tight for a minute.
Have a seat for me. Yeah, a lot of stuff to do.
Thanks for watching Crime Circus.
As the developments inside proceed. Now, this is day 3, and of course, we have been here for the last 3 days on deliberations in anticipation of some type of verdict. Many of us thought that that verdict would come sooner than later, especially looking at a lot of the evidence that was presented in the court during the trial. Okay, you're looking at right now some of the people that have assembled outside the courthouse. I said this at the top of the 10 o'clock hour. Not much has changed as far as the amount of media that's here. We saw at the end of yesterday just a large gathering of media in anticipation of some type of verdict, especially as you went towards the end of the day. Generally, the court suspends at around 5 o'clock. So as we got closer to the 5 o'clock hour, we saw a little bit more media. As far as people, spectators, protesters, people who are just curious to see what's going on, this is the lightest that we've seen it so far. Not really a substantial crowd at all. I would say there's more media here than there are people here looking to make their voices be heard. If you've watched it the last 2 days, you know exactly what we're talking about. At times, some heated exchange between two sides here, and for the most part, it's been relatively peaceful. You get a few scuffles of just arguments going on. That's to be expected in a very emotional case that we have here today. But this is the lighter side of the crowd. If I was to gauge what level of support that people have here, I would still say about 99% of the people here would like to see a guilty verdict on Kyle Rittenhouse, and a few people here think differently. That has not changed. That's been what the sentiment has been really from day one since we've gotten here. It's been an overwhelming sense of support for a guilty verdict. Now, I'll recap a few things. I know yesterday the drone footage was in question, and as the prosecution submitted a low resolution version to that drone footage, which is crucial to really document what happened that night, and as far as where he ran to, the direction of the barrel, and just really some intimate details in that case. Now, a high resolution version to that video has been submitted, and so there's a lot of questions of why that was withheld during the submission of evidence. So that's been looked at several times yesterday. The jury asked the judge to come in and review some of the video evidence there, to ask some questions about it, to see if there was anything that they could, resolve, if they had any issues with it. So that came into play. Also, security issues for both sides, really, the prosecution and the defense, the jurors and the judge, has been in question. Now, mind you, this court case here, these jurors are not sequestered, meaning they can go home at the end of each day. And of course, Kenosha's got that small town feel here. So the likelihood of them engaging with someone who might know that they're a jury or, that might be involved in this case is there. And of course, they are asked by the judge not to speak to the media and obviously not watch the local news or get on social media. Now, whether or not those commands are followed, we will never know. But the intimidation that's been going on social media about a not guilty verdict in this case could weigh on a jury as far as coming up with that verdict. It plays a big part in all of this. Security-wise, outside the courthouse, I would say surprisingly, it's low. I see a couple of police officers over back behind us, but that's it, which is very surprising. We had a couple instances yesterday where people were getting a heated conversation that would push into the street that's behind us. The street is it's still open, surprisingly enough, but the police, there's not a strong presence here, which is really surprising considering today could be any day could be the day that a verdict is filed. Now, let's go back to see what the governor of Wisconsin has ordered. Earlier in the week, he ordered 500 National Guardsmen to be on standby in case any violence breaks out. Now, up until yesterday, they were about an hour and a half away from here. I was told by one local authority that those troops and those National Guardsmen rather have moved closer to Kenosha County Courthouse and to be in a little bit better direct response if something was to happen. So, but if you go back to summer of 2020, the governor at the time did not send any police or law enforcement officers into these areas that were being nightly inundated with looting and rioting and burning structures down until day 3. And that's when Kyle Rittenhouse came up from Illinois to Kenosha to assist in protecting some small local businesses here. It became a political move, I think, back in 2020 of not deploying people to stop the rioting and looting. As a matter of fact, at that time, President Trump actually offered up 500 federal troops to come into Kenosha. That request was denied by the governor here. And once again, a political move to basically enable those protests to take place. Matter of fact, the verbiage coming out of the local authorities at that time was to give them room to protest and essentially riot against what they felt they needed to do. So they enabled that. And that is only when I think Kyle Rittenhouse at that point felt like it was time for citizens to take the guarding of their private property and business in their own hands. And that's when he felt the need to come to this community and do such that. So this case is really built around your Second Amendment right and your ability to protect yourself from bodily harm. And we've seen the video, which has become so important in this case of you got the jump kick man who was unidentified up until yesterday, jumping and kicking Rittenhouse in the head. You have the skateboard gentleman who came and swung a skateboard at Rittenhouse's head, and then another gentleman who brandished a firearm and was repeatedly told Rittenhouse before that he was, quote, going to kill him. So did he feel like he was an imminent threat of danger, and that's why he discharged his AR-15? That's for what the juries have to conclude with. That's their role in all of this. But the mainstream media early on, the narrative was it was a white supremacist. It was a white supremacist coming into this area, looking to, cause harm to this community, looking to do a backlash, any kind of racially motivated crime. We have seen nothing to that point at all in this whole entire case. There's been a deep dive on his social media. There's been a deep dive on his text messages, his phone records. There's no connections to white supremacy, but yet the mainstream media seems to think that that's what this case is all about. And that's why you have some community groups behind me that have really turned this into a race issue rather than the issue to protect yourself against a bodily harm. If you want to look at the judicial system, a lot of people here that say our legal system is is corrupt. There's no justice in our world. And I just ask you to think back during the George Floyd trial and ask them, did they felt like the wheels of justice prevailed in that case, but perhaps it didn't or won't prevail in this case here. So mixed emotions right now. Everyone's got a point of view on all of this. I want to bring in a great independent journalist who I've literally seen all across this country. Quincy, thanks for joining us. You've been here for the last couple of days, walked around. You've seen events very much like what we have today. Yes. What's your thoughts on this case and what you're seeing right now in Kenosha?
What I'm seeing right now in Kenosha, I honestly personally think Kyle's innocent. Based off of everything that we've seen, through the courtrooms and on TV and stuff. But the vibe I'm getting here right now, it's not like it was over the summer, like last year. What I'm seeing here personally, people are talking, different sides, different perspectives. Some people are, for Kyle being innocent. Some people are against it. But everybody's, for the most part, speaking, and I like that.
I like the dialogue, and we've seen last couple of days getting engaged with people, having these conversations, and we want to have. I think these conversations, Quincy, are needed. We don't necessarily need people shouting at one another, which at times you do see that.
Right, you have seen that, but for the most part, it's been conversations. I had actually a couple good conversations with two black gentlemen yesterday. And I actually got them to admit that they should have voted for Trump.
We had a young lady admit that as well.
Wow. Yeah, so that's pretty impressive to see, especially coming from the other side of things, more on the left side, and they're saying I should have voted for Trump.
Now, you're based in the Pacific Northwest, which we've seen. You've had your share of riots and controversy and protest. You've seen the police presence up until, those moments there. What do you think about the lack of police presence here in anticipation of this verdict?
I'm actually surprised, because obviously they've been pumping that up like there's going to be problems. But looking around, I don't even see where it's at, to be honest with you, in comparison to what I've seen before. Because when there's been anticipation for problems, there's usually a pretty heavy, thick police presence around.
Yeah, and perhaps we've got two things working against us right now. This wasn't a white on black crime to begin with, so maybe that diminishes some of it. Also, Quincy, it's cold.
It is cold. It's like 32 degrees out here. It's literally freezing.
Yeah. And so maybe that has prevented a lot of people from coming out and gathering. Although the last couple of days we had a sizable group here today. I don't even think it's 10% of what has been here.
I noticed that myself coming here today. I was like, the crowd's just not here today, even like it was yesterday. And I heard the day before yesterday, it was on Tuesday, it was even more people. Yeah. So
yeah, it's great to see the dialogue. And of course, all the media is here. You're here walking around. You've seen a lot of these protests. You've covered these riots and stuff. You're just not thinking at this point that is going to happen. Even if he's found guilty, that might be a minimal turnout as far as any type of protest, because I know that the city officials have at least committed to coming in sooner. We just got back in summer of 2020. It took 3 nights before people came in to do something. Perhaps they can cut that off a little sooner.
Yeah, they could. And again, I'm not even seeing the element.
Yeah.
And it is cold out here, so there's a lot of factors put in place with this. So I'm not seeing it, and hopefully it don't happen.
Yeah.
The community.
Nobody wants it.
Right. Nobody wants it. The community don't want it. Businesses don't want it. So personally, I don't see it happening.
And we know it doesn't accomplish anything. And we've seen small business owners. We've walked around here, and you've walked around here. The business is down. Locals are not out. Matter of fact, school right now is on virtual learning, and they've been doing that over the last couple of days in preparation of any type of breakout in violence. They don't want that to impede on the public.
Right. And right now there's a chant going on. I think that's been like the most things that we've probably seen. I think yesterday there was one little scuffle, but this has been the most aggressive type of thing, if you want to call that aggressive.
Yeah. We did see yesterday, and Joe was showing you some of that right now. Yesterday, the 2 instances that we had some type of, quote, incident, scuffle, end quote, came from young people. I noticed some of these young kids out here getting involved. The emotions get high, and it takes some of the older people to step in and try to stop that. I just noticed that yesterday. The 2 times that there was something going on and involved someone under the age of probably 20.
Yes, and I think it was the same person actually in both incidents. So it was someone young, and I saw some of the older people go over and try to calm him down. It didn't work. You know, he still got away from them and proceeded on to do what he wanted to do until the police actually took the person down.
Yeah, I think it's also we said this earlier, that it does no good to instigate as well. We've seen instigators on both sides. We've seen people that feel like Kyle Rittenhouse is absolutely not guilty, and then they walk around chanting some very derogatory statements towards others. I don't think that accomplishes anything here. It just kind of builds a little bit of resentment and some in a division.
It does build resentment, and it also like enforces the other view or the other party to continue to have their thoughts that they already think about you.
Right.
So
no, it's absolutely true. So we encourage the dialogue, and of course, if people feel like they want to do that, then that's to their that's their right to do it. But I don't think it benefits any of this to get that aggressive language.
Right. I completely agree 100%.
Yeah. And of course, we've had some people come in and out of the courthouse. I think we had maybe the victims' family members yesterday. I'm not quite sure who was up there. So we've had numerous people come to the steps here behind us, but we're just not seeing it, guys, today. I'm just not seeing the turnout. Being that Quincy, today could be the day going into, you don't want to have, and this is what I've been told by local authorities, you don't necessarily want to have a verdict going into the weekend on a Friday.
You don't, because, I mean, here's the other piece of it. I mean, just to the north of us, you have Milwaukee, which isn't far. To the south is Chicago. It's not that far either place to get here. I mean, you're talking about a 45-minute drive from Milwaukee, an hour from Chicago. You know, so if people really wanted to get here on the weekend to, you know, act up to cause problems, it wouldn't be that hard for them to do.
It wouldn't. I know that they sent out a survey to the National Guardsmen here in Kenosha area and asking them if they were in favor of kind of a longer term deployment here in Kenosha that could possibly put them here past Thanksgiving, which is 1 week from today. Overwhelming, the response was no. Now, which makes it me think that they'd rather this verdict happen sooner than later. If this was to go into next week, Monday or Tuesday, now that goes well into Thanksgiving.
That's vacation time. That's turkey time. They want to be home with their families.
It's actually hunting season here in the state of Wisconsin too, which kicks off, I think, days after Thanksgiving and around that time. So I'm thinking that even the National Guard would like this thing to happen sooner than later.
Right. I'm sure you want to be home for Thanksgiving too, Brian.
I'd like to. That'd be nice. We'd all be nice. But so that's just something to think about here locally. The timing of this, as far as the day of time. Of course, if we were a betting man, I said this earlier. I see something happening sooner in the day than later. You don't have an announcement at 5 o'clock as it's sunset here at about 5:30 ish here local. So you don't want to do something. You want to give your local officials time to move in and kind of set a perimeter.
I agree, and I think it'd be wise if they released the verdict more earlier in the day than later at night.
Yeah. What do you think about that drone footage that's been so discussed and the low resolution? Because I know if you have not seen the drone footage, I encourage you to go online. It's all over the place. There's a big difference, and we're video people. We recognize the quality of an image, and what the prosecution submitted was just trash. It's like 1996 video quality.
Yeah, VHS.
Yeah, VHS quality.
It does make a big difference. I mean, you can see the difference between the newer footage that they released compared to the old footage. Whatever that's going to do for the case, I don't know, but there is a difference within the footage itself.
Yeah. So spend some time looking at it, and you can decide for yourself if you can really accurately see the intentions of Rittenhouse and certain. And I guess that's where that all comes into play. What do you think about your thoughts on the jury being intimidated? Because this is small town Kenosha. This isn't a major city where these people are kind of, in a lack of a better word, get lost in the population. This is a small town. They likely know somebody that's out here right now protesting.
Right. I think it's valid, especially in the days and times that we're living in with, internet and people doxing, finding out where you work, where you live. Yeah. It's a valid concern, and I think it could be something that has some sort of influence or pressure on the jury. It makes sense, even in a small town, because you have people, again, that possibly could be coming in from other cities.
Yeah. You've got a re-election for the governor next year, and of course, Governor Ivor doesn't want to take the same stance he took last time, but kind of reserving the troops. So there's some political aspect on how the state responds to this, and even how the mayor responds to this. Because, look, I think the community of the people who own businesses and live here have been very vocal. They do not want what happened back in summer of 2020. They don't want that again. Therefore, they're going to demand that there is a solid police presence here. And like I said, like right now at this point, I don't see it.
I don't see it either. So, but hopefully they're around staging someplace.
We're not privy to a lot of information, which is fine, which is rightfully so. We don't want to necessarily give out locations and timing of your local authorities, but we can only hope that we do have some people standing by. Well, that's great. I know that you're streaming right now, which is wonderful.
I am right now.
I'm out here walking around.
Yes, I have.
Now, let me ask you a question, because a lot of times you walk around and people will heckle us because we're in the media, and of course there's been some individuals up there that have said stuff to us, and I'm good with that. How have they treated you walking around?
I'm not wearing no mega gear today, so right now I'm treated pretty fairly. So
on the right side broadcasting, Mike flag sticks out a little bit for us, but that's okay. We got right in the middle of it. Props to my cameraman Joe. When something would break out, we get right in the middle of it. So do you, and I think that's important that we do that. We've had a lot of people message us and say, hey, be careful out there, which is great. We love your thoughts and prayers and people that want us to be protected. But this is what needs to be shown, though. We need to show what's going on and get that dialogue.
Because, the mainstream media, the big corporations, they're not going to show it. They're honestly not going to show it. They're not going to show the full interviews. They're going to cut, they're going to take an interview that's 10 minutes long and cut it down to 20 seconds. Yeah. Where myself and, you guys will show
it. They make this about race.
They do.
It absolutely doesn't have anything to do with race.
Yep. And a couple of the guys I talked about yesterday even admitted that they know that the mainstream media cuts and slices things and makes it into a race thing. They know that.
And then once the mainstream media has played that race card, they double down on it. They'll never go back and remove it from the conversation here. It's already had its impact on people's on the preconceived notion that it is about race.
Yes, sir. Completely.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to get up there and do that. I know that. Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Quincy, thank you so much, and we'll see you out here in a little bit. He's gonna go cover it. Oh, where can people follow your on social media?
Every platform of mine is the BC Preacher.
There you go.
So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the BC Preacher.
There you go. Quincy, appreciate your time there. As he's out here doing exactly what we're doing, and we see numerous local media, national media, international media here as well covering this case. As you can imagine, huge impacts in the world of in the world of self-defense, and this is, I think, in a way, this trial will either send a message that rioting and looting and just causing violence in the streets will be not tolerated at all. And I think if local authorities don't have the manpower or the the power, I should say, or they have the power to control it, or the desire to control is probably a better word, then citizens need to step in to protect their property. And that's kind of what this case is all about. People are tired of the violence that we saw back in 2020 in numerous cities across the country. We saw the downtowns burned, businesses burned, people's lifelong businesses destroyed by the violence, and there's been no accountability at all. And I think that's what is so much anger from people who want to abide by the law. They want the law to protect us. And this is also a big direct result of the mantra of defunding the police. And I think that the whole notion of taking police off our streets is not a good idea. And if you really went to these inner cities and found and talked to the people in these inner cities, they will tell you that they do not want to defund the police. They need the police on their streets to protect their property. All right, quick recap as well. If you're just now joining us, we We are out here live in front of the Kenosha County Courthouse, where we're on day 3 of deliberations going inside right now. A little bit larger crowd has assembled since we came up the top of the hour. We will continue to give you top of the hour updates throughout the day, and of course give you any progressions that happen inside as well. Hey, we want to thank our big partners of the day and a great patriot himself, the great Mike Lindell over at MyPillow. I just encourage everybody right now to support this man. He has done so much for this country, and he is fighting for election integrity, and he's fighting for you and I. So go over to mypillow.com, get ahead of the holiday rush. We got Thanksgiving 1 week from today. We got Black Friday specials coming up. Avoid the hassles, avoid the lines, avoid the stress. Just go on to mypillow.com, get some Giza sheets, a dog bed, those great towels, travel pillows, things like that. Go online to mypillow.com. Go check out mystore.com as well, and put in that promo code RSBN and get up to 66% off your entire order. So I just want to tell everybody that we got to promote those that help us, and Mike Lindell is certainly one of those individuals that does just that. So go on to mypillow.com, mystore.com, put that promo code RSBN to get up to 66% off. I wish I had a set of those flannel sheets right now. I would wrap one around Joe. He'd look like a little mummy out here, and we would be warm because it is cold. Like we said earlier, it's a probably low 30s wind, gusting up to about 20 sometimes. Pretty brisk wind. So it's cold. But go get those slippers as well. Those nice, furry, comfortable slippers. Same technology, and those pillows and those mattress toppers are inside those slippers. They feel great. Go do that as well. MyPillow.com, mystore.com, promo code RSBN at checkout. And while you're kind of hopping around the web, go over to our website, rsbnetwork.com. Sign up for our newsletter. What a great resource to stay in touch with all things that you and I are concerned about. rsbnetwork.com. Click on this newsletter, sign up for it. Takes 30 seconds to do that, and you'll get this directly to your inbox, which would be great. And while you're there, if you feel the need to donate, we would love that as well. Go to our website and click on the donate button. And of course, we got great patriots like Mike Lindell, and I love our Simple Scrub guys. We haven't done a whole lot of talking about them, but thesimplescrub.com, great partner of us as well, with the promo code that works RSB on that website as well. But our true partners are you watching us right now. You just have decided that you like our content, you love what we stand for, and through your generous donations, it has enabled us to grow this company and cover a wide range of topics. And that's why we're here today. So thanks to you, we can do that. So if you feel led in your heart to donate a little bit for the holidays, we certainly appreciate that. Over at rsbnetwork.com/donate. Get on there and feel the need to donate what you can. We appreciate that. Okay, local time here in Kenosha, it is 11:31. We are going to jump off here, take a quick break. We'll be back at 12:05 Central Time here in Kenosha for another update outside the courthouse and update you on any developments that we come across from inside. Shot now. There's a guy that's been walking around the last couple of days screaming a lot against Black Lives Matter, has been very vocal against Black Lives Matter. Now he's back here today walking around with his dog, and he's got something in the bag, and they've been screaming, "What's in the bag? What's in the bag?" But anyway, I know you guys just dropped in on us, and that's exactly what's happening right now as we are continuing our coverage of day 3 of the deliberations here in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. I would say the amount of people gathered here in front of the courthouse has increased in the last 30 minutes since the last time that we had an update here. More people are here. And of course, they keep reviewing the testimony inside those jurors, trying to determine the outcome of Kyle Rittenhouse's life and his trial. Of course, a lot of evidence was brought into play. Yesterday, reviewed the drone footage that was submitted by the prosecution, a low-res version of that drone footage that has been highly scrutinized when they found out that there was a high-definition version of that as well. If this is the first time you've dropped in on one of our broadcasts so far, this gives you a good idea of the tone that has been out here. I would say 95% of the people out here feel like Rittenhouse is guilty of the crimes, the all 5 counts that are against him, and a very small minority of people feel like he is innocent, and he exercised his Second Amendment right and had the right to use deadly force. So with that in mind, when you have someone that is a supporter of Kyle Rittenhouse, you get a lot of kickback. You get a lot of verbiage, verbal exchange, as this is a very highly emotional case. So that's exactly what you have. And we literally just took off the top of the hour here. You were able to get a good idea of what the scene looks like the majority of the time, even though it's been very quiet so far. I mean, weather-wise, it's cold. It's much cooler than it was yesterday, where we've got temperatures in the mid-30s now. We have a very brisk wind, so the wind chills are in the 20s. And we thought early on that would be kind of a deterrent from people coming down here. We saw that earlier, but just within the last 30 minutes or so, it has gotten a little busier down here. Okay, let's talk about what has developed, I guess, in the last few hours this morning. Apparently, and I'm pulling up my notes here, and I'll make sure I give you a great description of what has gone on. But apparently, the Kenosha police said that earlier today, a person was taken into custody about being suspected of trying to photograph jurors. An investigation is ongoing right now, according to the Kenosha police. This person is known to have worked for MSNBC and was on assignment for NBC News based out of New York. The person is James J. Morrison, who claims that he was a producer for NBC News and employed by MSNBC, apparently was pulled over in a traffic violation and told the authorities that he was told to follow the jury bus, which was leaving the courthouse here going to an undisclosed location. And you can imagine the security measures that are set in place so that the identity of these jurors are protected at all times. And I think it's important to note that the jury situation here, they are not sequestered. They are allowed to, for the most part, leave and go home. And when they do that, obviously they are in a certain situation where they could be identified. And that's what apparently the producer / photographer for MSNBC was apparently doing. Now, the Judge Schrader has eliminated MSNBC from coverage inside the courthouse, so they were not allowed in the courtroom. And that is something he even said yesterday, that he was considering really in future court cases deciding whether or not the media should be allowed in the courtroom on certain cases because of the high profile case. I'm going to drop in some audio over here, so just stand by there. Let's see if we can get an idea of what some of the exchange.
You're going to get from me, just that.
Are you the former police officer that people identified online last night?
Okay, just some of the exchanges here, and just gives you an idea of what we saw yesterday. Numerous outbreaks of heated discussion between supporters and between people, clearly with a different thought process of what's taking place here at the courthouse. As I said earlier, about 99% of the people here feel that Kyle Rittenhouse should be proven guilty in this case, and you have a few minority opinions on that, and those are the ones that seem to be engaged in some of the higher emotional discussions. Let me see if I can drop in over here. It's really interesting how many of the times individuals will walk up to this area and kind of, egg on, if you will, some of their opposition viewpoints, but then yet they don't want to stand and have a dialogue. They come in, they shout a few things, and walk away. We saw that yesterday and the day before, and that seems to be pretty much the playbook. And I said this before, I think people that are on both sides that are shouting derogatory language, that doesn't help the situation here at all. It doesn't clarify. You don't have to agree on issues, but you should have clarity on the issues. And they don't provide any clarity. They just provide arguing, discussion points. If they come over this way, we'll see if we can't get a little bit more engaged, but that gives you an idea. If you're just now joining us, we're live outside the Kenosha County Courthouse here, day 3 of deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. We have been here covering the deliberations for the last couple of days, and this is the smallest crowd we've seen so far today, due to perhaps a couple issues. It could be the weather. We've got some light flurries coming down now, and it's quite cold. It could be due to that. Now, if you look at the timing of everything right now, from what we've been told, is if we get a decision today, it's going to be earlier than later, due to the fact that the governor here, who has deployed about 500 National Guardsmen to be on standby, that were, as of yesterday, they were about an hour and a half away from the county courthouse here. I was told by a local authority that those National Guardsmen have been moved closer to where we're at now to be able to respond to any type of escalation that might take place. So they've been moved closer to this perimeter, which I think is a smart move. Also, if you look at the timing of when a verdict might be released, I think it's earlier in the day. It would be unwise to release a verdict at 4 or 5 o'clock, just at sundown, as typically that's when you might see some of the most heated demonstrations take place. So with that said, I see it happening today. I don't necessarily see it happening tomorrow on a Friday going into a weekend. That would be especially if the verdict comes back as a guilty, a non-guilty. If he's acquitted, then I would imagine that promotes a little bit of mischievous activity. Okay, so then we go into next week, into the Thanksgiving week, which is 1 week ago. 1 week from now, you have Thanksgiving week. Now, when you have Thanksgiving week, the National Guardsman, who was, from my knowledge, that I heard from a local news report here, were asked what their thoughts were on being deployed in Kenosha for, quote, a long period of time, anticipating that if something does escalate, it could take some time to get it under control. Not a lot of positive feedback on that. And of course, if it came next week into a holiday weekend, or holiday week rather, for Thanksgiving, these people obviously are away from their families, dealing with all of this. So, and of course, going into Thanksgiving, I don't think this is something the community of Kenosha wants the week of Thanksgiving. I don't think they want it any time, but especially any kind of distraction the week of Thanksgiving. Definitely something they don't want. Now, Got some flurries flying now, which is the first time we've had since we've been here, which makes it even colder. Okay, so you've got the decision. So we've got the security perimeter set up. Now, I said this several times before, is to my personal, just from me looking around, I don't necessarily see the police presence here that I think should be here at this point. If you go back in summer of 2020, it took 3 days until the local officials really were told to come in and get the crowd under control. It took the governor 3 nights as well before that. That is the reason why Kyle Rittenhouse came up from Illinois to get involved in protecting the local businesses here, which he had a relationship with. That was his rationalization for coming up here and getting involved. That's his story. Now, if in fact back in 2020, if there would have been a stronger police force from the beginning, and we knew these riots are coming. We have seen what was happening across the country. We knew things were happening. If the governor, local authorities would have got ahead of the curve on that, they could have diminished the extreme violence that took place and perhaps even eliminated it. We'll see what happens. Now, this is a gubernatorial race next year for Governor Ivor here in Wisconsin. Now, it's a very different story now from what happened in 2020. He does not want the violence and the protests that occurred during the summer of 2020, because this is an election year. And I think that many of the community leaders here and people that live in this Kenosha area, it did not look well. And people do not want this distraction happening in their community. I talked to several business owners here in the last couple of days, and business is down. Business has been down. The summer riots of 2020 hurt their business. It hurt the economy here. It's something they just don't want. So they are all in favor of a beefed up security presence in their area to just really, discourage anyone from getting involved and creating havoc in their community. Side note here, schools have been on virtual learning the last couple of days due to the nature of this trial and the possibility that, perhaps something negative could happen. They have been on virtual learning, which I think is a smart move. They're in virtual learning. Businesses are shut down or diminished in their business because local people working down here aren't coming down to this downtown area in fear of something that will break out. So that's the situation here. It's 12:20. My running bet is that we would have something by 1-2 o'clock, some type of notice of a possible verdict today. If it doesn't happen, then all bets are off the table at that point. I don't know, because I don't think it would happen on a Friday, but that's just my uneducated guess, I guess you could say. And everyone's got a little perspective on things. Hey, we'll say a side note, someone had brought coffee and donuts over there, which is kind of nice, and the media went over there to enjoy that, like you would expect, and a lot of the organizers here went over there as well. But one interesting thing to point out is they were screaming at each other on this side of the street in front of the courthouse. But as soon as the donuts and the coffee arrived, they all separated, went over there and got donuts and coffee, and then continued to argue when they come back over here. It's almost like everyone took a break for the hot coffee and donuts. But if you've never covered or never attended a protest gathering like we have here, it's interesting. You get a lot of different personalities at these events. You get a lot of different perspectives of these events, and we've always often asked ourselves, where these people, do they have jobs? Are they missing work to come out here? You know, and I say that even at a lot of events that happen during a work week. You just ask yourself, these people have carved time out of their day to come out here and spend, you know, a lot of them likely all day out here getting involved. If you're wondering if you've had any kind of physical altercations out here, we have not seen that. We had a couple incidences where we did have a lady with a sign that was stolen away from her. And then later she had to go back and get it, and they ripped it up. We saw that a couple of times yesterday, but that's the extent of anything that got physical. So it just didn't happen. And I think that the police presence at that point, they did roll up and take care of that. So they're here, and there's a street over to just to the right of the screen, right in front of the courthouse. It remains open as well. And maybe at a later time they'll shut that street down as traffic and the crowd builds. I'm just listening to the gentleman in the green who has been very vocal on his stance and says he had a sign earlier that said all crimes matter. I'm sorry, it said black crimes matter. And of course, he was met with all crimes matter. So it becomes this pep rally for both sides, and they feel the need to, you know, to continually chant. Now, the guy that's in front of him right now with the gray jacket with the hoodie on his head, he was engaged in a conversation with him earlier that did get kind of heated. Matter of fact, they both walked away before it escalated anymore. That happened right after we got off the air at the bottom of the 11 o'clock hour. So, and then the guy with the dog that's walking around here, he had a megaphone earlier. He was spouting off verbiage towards Black Lives Matter. Obviously, that got him a lot of attention, and he just seemed to attract a crowd everywhere he would go. He continues to circle this perimeter nonstop. And, you know, he's got every right to do that. I don't think it facilitates any discussion. Matter of fact, it's a major distractor to what's going on. And it just, you know, but that's just what it is. Hey, I want to talk about our good friend over at mypillow.com. That's right. It is time to go shopping. It's time to get ahead of the holidays and get ahead of all the rush and going to the mall. Who wants to do that? Hey, Black Friday is a week from tomorrow. Don't worry about logging on some random website to find out your stuff will get to your house days before Christmas, making you stress out. Go to mypillow.com, mypillow.com, and shop there. Liz Willis and myself were there at the manufacturing headquarters in Minnesota just weeks ago. We've seen how they make those pillows, those travel pillows, the dog bags, the sheets. It's all quality made stuff. He's employing thousands of people there in Minnesota. He is paying them a great wage. And it's, you know what? We can support a patriot like Mike Lindell. So go to the website, mypillow.com. That's mypillow.com, and put in the promo code RSBN and get up to 66% off your entire order. You can also go to mystore.com as well. Mystore.com, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll probably say it 1,000 times more. Put the promo code in, mystore.com, look for a flag, and put it in front of your house. Nothing says more that I love this country than having a flag in front of your house. So you can go get that at mystore.com, mystore.com. Also, okay, the guy, real quick, the guy in front of us with the little setup microphone here that's talking, he was out here yesterday with a heated exchange with one of the members from the Black Lives Matter chapter in this area. They had I think a really interesting dialogue back and forth as far as the right to have a weapon, have the right to carry a weapon. They also talked about, you know, crimes and you know, the who's responsible for inner city crimes and what needs to be done to to curve that. Often a lot of discussion involves the breakdown, the nucleus breakdown of the traditional family, the lack of a father in the house, the lack of leadership in the house, and lack of leadership in the community. That's been one of the things that a lot of these organizers seem to talk about quite a bit, is that. Now let's drop in on this conversation. Well, you can just stay right there and I'll walk over, give you an idea.
Trying to antagonize me yesterday, as far as I know, was arrested yesterday. He's talking about, I'm not talking about you. Were you arrested yesterday? Then I'm not talking about you. All I'm trying to point out is I am not with the guy in the suitcase just as much as I am not with you. Does that make sense? That's all I'm trying to point out.
Do something wrong, which it means killing 2 people, innocent people.
Okay, I got a question for you. Stop, no, seriously, I got a question for you. How much of the actual trial did you watch, sir? How much of the what? How much of the self-defense law of Wisconsin do you know? I know quite a bit. At the end of the day, you know, it's not up to me, it's not up to you, it's up to that jury. So we can sit here and we can deliberate all we want. If I come over there and hit you in your shit, will you shoot me down? No. I don't have a gun to shoot you down. Now, if you come into my house when I'm sleeping and try to attack me when I have my 3 kids in the house, I'm going to do what I feel is right to protect my family. No, I said I would do what's right. So at the end of the day, but here's the point. That's your opinion, and that's yet. No, it's not.
That's a different situation. If somebody breaks into your house, of course you have your right to self-defense.
That's a lie. In the state of Wisconsin, that's a lie.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, am I wrong? I'm sticking up for my family. But hey, I'm talking. You can wait. Wait till I'm done.
I offered you the mic and you didn't want it, so you can go fuck yourself, dude. Okay? I gave you the opportunity to talk. You ain't gonna cut me off. You can go suck it.
I was talking.
And I was gonna flipping fuck. Because I was trying to be nice and offered you the mic and you didn't want it, which means you don't want a conversation. You know what? I got people in Ontario. Did I not offer him the mic less than 2 minutes ago? Less than 2 minutes ago, did I not offer this asshole a mic? And he turned me down. So now why would I give him the time of day? I was respectful and I gave him the time of day and he said F you. So now I'm saying F you to him. I'm nice, I'm cordial until you want to disrespect me. You disrespect me, you're going to get disrespect back. That's fair. And everybody can see on camera, I offered him the mic. I went like this. He could have taken it out of my hands and he could have had his opinion because I'm up for free speech. But at the end of the day, this is real simple. This is not cherry picking, okay? The way I look at the law is it's got to be equal across all boards. It's either self-defense or it's not. Okay? And at the end of the day, we can all sit out here, whether you're on that side or whether you're on this side, we can all sit out here and we can argue about it. But ultimately, it's the jurors and the judge in this case that decides it. We don't. The mob mentality in this country does not decide things. We have a rule of law that decides things. And that's one reason why I'm here, because it seems to me like they think the mob mentality rules this. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter my opinion. It doesn't matter their opinion. It matters this court's opinion, because that's the law in this country. And if you can't respect that, then you don't respect this country and you don't respect the courts. Other than that, it's real simple.
I'm Puerto Rican. I ain't trying to be no white. I play everybody together. White, black, Hispanic. That's the point of America. And you want to say something?
And if anybody's got anything to say else for us, feel free to step up and take the mic, because that's the way I am.
We saw this gentleman out here yesterday, and he's providing a platform for people with different, different perspectives. So, yeah, go ahead. I'm just covering. Yeah, just we appreciate what you're doing. At least you're providing a.
I live 35 minutes west of here, so to me, I consider myself a local. You know, to me, that's local enough. In the larger scheme of things on how big this planet is, if you're 35 minutes from a place, you're local.
What I'm saying right here, y'all. What I'm saying right here is Kyle Rittenhouse had a right to defend himself. And I said it many times I wouldn't chase a person with a knife, and I wouldn't chase a person with a baseball bat. If I see a person with a baseball bat, I'm not run up on him. I'm not. You common sense said you don't run up on nobody. Self-defense. It's not about black or white. It's about what is real. And I'm sorry if you walk up in my house, I protect my kids. God damn it. And this is a black man that says, you call me a coon if you want to, but I support Kyle Rittenhouse, the American hero. G.I. Joe. Screw G.I. Joe. Kyle Rittenhouse. Captain America. Captain America is Kyle Rittenhouse. Free him. Free Kyle Rittenhouse. You don't run up on nobody. I stand with the Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm for America first. I'm for where we live at. They are triggered. I have triggered people with the truth. They are triggered. And it was meant for this to happen. It was meant. I believe things are ordained to happen. I believe what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse was meant to happen. I believe it was meant to happen. It was meant. Nothing is an accident. Nothing is a coincidence. Free Kyle Rittenhouse. We got my Puerto Rican brother right here.
Who cares if people are racist? Who cares if there's racism?
Look, if this is about race, why do we have three different races here that all agree? Okay? And another thing, if you think I'm racist or you think anybody else is racist, you need to go back at least 3 years on videos, because 3 years ago, me and this man right here were literally going across the country preaching the same message together in the same car. So any narrative you have on racism, you can take it and forget about it. And you can look on YouTube videos as early as 2018 for that evidence. It's real easy to find. This ain't about race. Y'all want to make it about race because the government and this administration makes it about race. And you buy into their garbage. You're just their pawns. And the American people are fed up with being pawns.
That's right, Jesse Jackson got all that money. Y'all ain't got shit. That's right.
What you got? What you got?
I ain't got it right now. I ain't got it right now. When I'm emotional, I can't speak or I want to speak right.
Look, so this ain't about money. This is about the American people. This is about our rights, and this is about our freedoms.
You don't get done, you know, all that. Don't threaten nobody. I won't take it away.
We wouldn't be here. I just got to remind everybody, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for feckless leadership in this city and this state. When a 17-year-old civic-minded individual has to step up and do what the public can't, public servants can't, because their hands are tied. Kyle Rittenhouse is a political prisoner, and all he did commit was self-defense. Enough said.
All right. We've had some great interaction here. It gives you a good idea of what it's like here in front of the courthouse right now on day 3 of deliberations. If you're just now joining us, we're out here. You've got two separate sides of the ball here. People who clearly feel like Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty, and then those who feel like he was just exercising his Second Amendment right. Two sides, two conversations. Sometimes they don't necessarily have a discussion. It's more of a rant towards each side. But clearly, a discussion is needed in what's going on right now.
Who's going to be left? When are you going to stand up and not let your neighborhoods burn anymore?
And that's been one of the discussions here for defunding the police. That's been a discussion, a big push across the country to defund our police. Now, when that happens, crime tends to go up in those areas, and that is proven over the last year in the statistics for crime. We've seen an overwhelming increase in crime in some of these bigger cities that have been defunding the police. And in result of all of the protests over the last couple of years on as far as all the court cases around. It has been a major driver, a political driver in countries or states around this country about defunding the police. You want to talk a little bit about defunding the police, the move to defund the police, and how insane of an idea that is, because there's so many cities right now, they've seen their crime spiked because of this push to defund our police.
I think it's crazy. What's the point of defunding the police? And, I'm not some Mr. A perfect citizen here. I got a rap sheet. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't. I'm a violent, no. But, in this country, I think there's a big difference between violent crime and nonviolent offenders. And if somebody can't see the difference, But at the end of the day, when you take police officers off the street, all you're doing is encouraging more violence.
I talked to a couple local people this morning, and they said the crime in the Kenosha area over the last, he's been here 30 years, he said has spiked big time.
So I live 35 minutes west of here right now. A year and a half ago, I lived 15 minutes from here. Because of the riots, I have a wife and 3 kids. We moved farther out. I just didn't want to have to deal with it. It was not... if they could come here, they could easily come 15 minutes farther to where I was at that time. So, it's got an opinion. And if I'm the person that feels this way, how many other people feel that way too?
What's your thoughts on the governor back in 2020 really waited so long? The riots had continued night after night before sending anybody in to help, spawning the reason why Kyle Rittenhouse felt like the need to come up and protect property. What's your thoughts on the governor in this state? Is he doing enough to make sure that these local businesses are protected?
I mean, it's real simple. Since the peaceful protests or riots began, whatever you want to call them, any Democrat hasn't done anything. So to think that Joe Biden was going to get into office and do something different, you're a fallacy. And the problem I have with it now is we all can see Joe Biden as incompetent, okay? And all we heard from the Democrat side was, we trust the team. We trust the team who's around, is all I heard as a voter from Democrats before the election. Now after the election, here we are. Okay, he hasn't gotten any better. And on top of it, okay, if he's not in charge and the Democrat Party is, whoever you vote in is just going to be more of the same. You know what I mean? At this point, I'm not beholden to the Republican Party either. As far as I'm concerned, the 13 Republicans that voted on that infrastructure bill are just as much traitors as every Democrat, and they all need to be voted out.
Okay, let's dip in on this conversation over here real quick. Let's see if we can get a good, I'm going to step across here, Joe, and see if I can't get a better perspective on everything.
Everybody's privileged, that's right. Everybody's privileged. Everybody, you privileged, I'm privileged, everybody's privileged. It's not about white folks. It's not about white folks. It's not about white folks.
Ain't nothing pure white around here. Everything started.
It's not about white folks. We're all privileged in America. We are the people. It's not power to the people, power to all American people, not just to the people. It's the people, we the people, not the people. It's we the people, not the people. It's we the people. We are in America. We are privileged. We are more privileged than anybody, any place in the world. That's why we were here arguing with each other. Nobody else can do this shit. Nowhere else. Good luck being a Puerto Rican in another country. Good luck being a black man in another country. Good luck. Did you know, in a country that's white privilege, in a country that's white privilege, Asians have all the money. Asians got all the money. America's white privilege. I thought all the Americans are privileged. All the Asians got the money. What happened with the privilege? The bunch of shit, I'm a bootlegger. No, I'm not. The last thing I am is a bootlegger. My father's Puerto Rican, got beat by cops. But guess what? It didn't stop him. Sorry. That's right, my master. The masters are the ones that funded BLM and Antifa. Yo, you guys are the wrong white people.
Listen.
It's the truth. BLM is a terrorist organization just like Antifa. Antifa is a terrorist organization. You are white terrorist, motherfucker. I am Puerto Rican. You want to see my last name? You want to see my last name? I'm Puerto Rican.
You know what? There's some in this country that people need to be said and hasn't been said, okay? And so I'm not going to call any, but I'm going to point something out. What is the definition of racism?
Racism is whenever you dislike anybody besides your own color. So you know what? I can say what I want to say, but there's only one group here that's pushing the racism bait and narrative here, and it's not us.
What is Kyle got to do with racism? What? What? Black man walking down the street with an R-15. What if they gonna do? What if I'm an alien from Mars? The fuck? No, what if? What is? What is? What is?
Be an issue. Why is
He's not defending himself. His whole injury is nothing but white folks.
Your whole thing is based on color.
Yes, yes.
You base everything on color, but you call us the racists. Why are we the racists when you base everything on life on color?
Because that's what it is. We call it.
Then that's being racist, because that's the definition of racism. Racism is the definition of whenever you are against anybody besides your own color, or whenever you look at life that everything is about color. If everything is about color, you are racist.
You think you're pure white? Everything's
No, I'm not. I'm a Puerto Rican Jew, by the way. So I'm 1/4 Jewish, I'm 1/4 Puerto Rican, and the rest of me's mud. So I never said I'm white.
Ain't nobody pure white. Everything started from black.
It don't matter. You're making it about race because you want this about race because you're racist. And I'll say it.
You so motherfucking right. I don't like Peckerwoods. You so
See, they just admitted they're the racist group on live feeds all over the world. And you wonder why we call them that.
We're joining us live here in Kenosha. I want to point out, Barack Obama was duly elected a president twice by a majority of white people in this country. So that's important to note out. So when people say that there's racism in America, there's racism in America, but America is not racist. There's a difference between that. To blanket this country as being a racist country is irresponsible and is being intellectually dishonest with yourself. Because no, Barack Obama was a duly elected African-American president in this country twice by a majority of white people in this country. Point to note out. Some of the dialogue that's going on here in front of the courthouse, and this is what it's looked like the last couple of days as we are in day 3 of deliberations. You got clearly two sides of the issue here. Those who want and feel like Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty of what is charged, and then some not guilty as well. I'll take a free cookie. Thank you very much. Why not, right? Thank you very much. But that's something that obviously, hey, why not for a cookie break, right? We've been out here all day. We'll see if we can back off over here away from the crowd here. But that gives you an idea of the heated discussions, and I think much needed discussions, especially in this very hyper political sensitivity arena that we have. Okay, we're going to dip out of this and continue to monitor the situation inside the courthouse. And of course, we'll come back out here shortly after 1 o'clock and give you a little bit of a feel of what it looks like here. But you've seen the dialogue. This is what it's like out here in front of the Kenosha County Courthouse. As a reminder, go to our website, rsbnetwork.com, and sign up for the newsletter that we have. It's a great resource to be able to get the news on the topics that you care about the most. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll pop back in out here a little bit after 1 o'clock here Central Time, and hopefully by then we know a little bit more about what's going on inside. Live from Kenosha, the Brian Glenn Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll be right back.
But all lives matter.
All right, we are live back out front of the Kenosha courthouse here as we continue our coverage on day 3 of the deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. As you can see, the crowd is still here. I would even say to a certain degree it's a little larger now than it has been the last couple of times we've checked in with you guys. Still overwhelming the consensus here from the people that you see yelling back and forth is that Kyle Rittenhouse is in fact guilty of the charges against him. Now, some of the latest developments coming out, we've got several things we're going to get to in this block. Earlier this morning, the judge released a statement, an announcement rather, that MSNBC would not be allowed back in the courthouse for coverage due to a traffic violation that turned out to uncover that a producer, a photographer of MSNBC, which is owned by NBC, an employee of that outlet, was basically following a jury bus with jurors to follow them. Now, that is something that is not encouraged at all, but I'm looking at some social media threads, and apparently it is a practice that is, journalists have done. It's highly immoral, but it's a way for them to capture license plates and get information of jurors to potentially identify them. In any event, Judge Schrader here says that's not going to be tolerated and has removed MSNBC from the courtroom here. Now, in the last several minutes, I was talking with some national media, and it seems to be the topic amongst everyone because that is just another circus element to this trial that has already seen a lot of scrutiny, even down to the drone footage that was submitted by the prosecution, a low resolution drone footage in comparative to your high resolution footage that would show a little bit more detail in terms of what happened that night. So you've got that in play. You've got the prosecutor. We've seen the images online of the prosecutor holding the AR-15 towards the jury, demonstrating the intimidation that the victims felt at that point. You've got that. You've also just got information that just factually didn't line up with some of the testimony. Now, you've got what they're talking about behind me, and we'll drop in on that conversation later, but I can kind of summarize it for you. What you have here is a big issue of race, and this is something that the mainstream media has really pushed the narrative from the very beginning, as this has been all about race, and all of the individuals involved in this case are all white. So there is no element of racism, but that's something that has been pushed not only by the mainstream media, it's been pushed by President Biden before any of this investigation started, and yet there's been a complete, deep dive on Kyle Rittenhouse, his social media, his phone records, and there is no trace of white supremacy being linked to him. So in that matter, you've got that element of all of this. Plus, you have the security aspect of this trial. We do see a couple police cars parked along this side street here in front of the courthouse. That is the first time we've actually had that happen so far in the last 3 days that we've been here. There's been no police actually parked on the street. They would respond from time to time when stuff happens, but you didn't see a solid presence. Now, we do know that the governor earlier in the week had ordered 500 National Guardsmen to be set up near Kenosha. The last report is that they were about an hour and a half outside the courthouse area, but as of this morning, that distance has been reduced. The exact location was not disclosed, but we do know that the National Guard is closer to the courthouse than they were yesterday. So that's the security issue on that. And if you go back to 2020, and the reason why this is all happening is when we had the nights of protests among dozens of cities in the country, you saw the lack of police, law enforcement presence to prevent many of the acts of violence that were happening on the streets that summer. Many of these political leaders were saying, give these people room to protest, give these people room to demonstrate. And by them doing that and the lack of control is when it got out of hand, and you saw the looting, you saw the violence, you saw the burning of businesses rather. That's why Kyle Rittenhouse came up from Illinois to get involved with that on August 25th of 2020. So that's that side. Now, let's fast forward to today. We've got the National Guard, 500 strong from what we understand number-wise. A different message is coming out of the local officials here, and a very different message coming out of the governor. Now, Governor Ivor has a re-election coming up next year. The last thing that he wants, and the last thing anybody with the administration of any kind of local or regional government wants, is another repeat of 2020, because the people, the citizens of Kenosha and these areas have made it clear that they do not want this type of violence in their neighborhood. They simply do not want the destruction that is involved in the community. They don't want it. And so the pressure on local authorities is there to beef up the security in response to anything that might be negative coming out of the verdict here. Now, let's be perfectly clear. No one is threatened by a guilty verdict and what the recourse might be from that. No one's, for the most part, worried that, right-wing conservatives are going to go rally to the streets and cause violence. The worry is very much on the other side of the judicial ideology that he is going to be found not guilty. If he's found not guilty, that is when they are in fear of retaliation. I think that's very interesting to point out, that all of the security, all of the worry, all of the intimidation is coming from the groups that feel like Kyle Rittenhouse is absolutely guilty of these crimes. That's the threat. And of course, with the jury being unsequestered, which means they can basically go home at the end of the day, is huge in regards to protecting them from not only their identity, but protecting them from seeing things like this out here right now. I mean, you've got, at one point, hundreds of people that were out here before, seeing the protests, seeing the anger, seeing the messaging coming out. That can definitely weigh on their feelings in this case, and maybe feelings for their personal safety, which we've seen threats against the jury, potential threats against the prosecution and the defense, and also the judge himself. So you've got a very high level of security built around this entire case, and at any moment, people feel like, well, something can pop off, and that's why you have a lot of people here waiting outside. Now, the numbers are down from the first couple of days we were here, but then it was much warmer the last couple of days. The temperature today, a good 30 to 40 degrees cooler than it has been. We're in the low 30s now with flurries and windy, so the wind chills are in the 20s. That could prevent a lot of the protesters from coming down here. Now, let's look at time-wise of all of this in terms of the verdict. It is my feeling, my personal feeling, that I thought we'd have some type of verdict announced today, due to the fact that tomorrow's a Friday, and historically, legal experts will say, and they talked about it locally here, that you don't want a highly emotional case to be released on a Friday going into the weekend. That just gives people an opportunity to, get involved in something they should not be doing. Okay, so with that logic, today makes perfect sense to go ahead, get the verdict done, get it earlier in the day so you have time to deploy National Guards and get local law enforcement together and build some type of protection against, rioting or anything that's illegal. So you got that scenario this week. Now let's fast forward to next week. We've got Thanksgiving a week from today. They are saying that, of course, law enforcement, National Guard, to potentially release a verdict on a Monday or a Tuesday would mean you could have protest, rioting, violence going through Thanksgiving. And by a internal poll with National Guards of Wisconsin, they sent out an email, a survey saying, are you in favor of long-term deployment here in Kenosha? And overwhelmingly, they were against that. So being that it would push over the holidays, and also, oddly enough, deer season in Wisconsin is about a week away as well. I know it sounds very trivial, but that's a big deal in this sport. And so a lot of outdoorsmen that might be with the National Guard simply do not want to be deployed during that first week. I know it sounds trivial, but it does play a part in someone's willingness to sacrifice their time and make their way out here indefinitely and to protect the streets. But we're glad you're joining us right now. We are live here outside the courthouse. As you know, day 3 deliberations still going on inside at this point, looking at the video evidence, looking at all types of aspects to this trial. Now, we don't know in particular what they're looking at, because the media is not privy to a lot of that information. We just know that they're looking at the evidence. Now, there's a couple outcomes here. I was trying to get an idea of kind of what the local talk shows are thinking about at this point. And they really feel like it's going to be a mistrial with prejudice, and that would completely kick this lawsuit, this whole court battle out, and it would actually free Kyle Rittenhouse. And at that point, the charges would be released and the case is over. Will that happen? I don't know. A lot of people have said early on that because the prosecution was so reckless and really failed to adequately provide enough evidence and proof that Kyle Rittenhouse actually violated the law and took the lives of 2 individuals. It was early on, court legal experts who said this is the most reckless case that they have ever seen. Jonathan Turley, who is a constitutional attorney and does a lot of work on mainstream national news, has said this is one of the most reckless prosecutions he's ever seen. With that said, I just don't see how a guilty verdict could be proved in this case. There's a lot. If you look at the facts of the case and you take the emotions out of it, you have an individual that got caught up walking the streets, patrolling the local businesses, got chased by a mob of people. One of them was brandishing a firearm, threatened to, quote, kill him, end quote. You have Jump Kick Man, who is, you've seen the videos of him jump kicking and punching, or basically kicking Kyle Rittenhouse in the head. You have that. You have another individual that took a skateboard and swung it violently towards Kyle Rittenhouse. And that is a whole topic of whether or not a skateboard is considered a deadly weapon. And I think any object of any weight and size can be considered a deadly weapon used in that way. So you've got self-defense issues here. It has nothing to do with Kyle Rittenhouse taking to the streets of that night in 2020 looking for someone to shoot. And I think that's a lot of the narratives that's coming from people that you see there on the steps. They feel like Kyle Rittenhouse purposely drove to Kenosha to commit a crime. And in fact, the facts back up such an opposite story to all of this. So that's where we're at. The jurors are the only ones that can decide any of this. And as long as their identity is protected and they feel like they're not threatened, I think we're going to get justice served here. But I think the key to all of this is their feeling of being secure and safe in this decision. And this is a small town. This is small town USA. You've got 100,000 people in this Kenosha surrounding area. Many of these people obviously are a part of this community. This is not a big city. This is not New York City where, these jurors can, for the most part, disappear into the population and the majority of the people will have no idea who they are. These jurors live here. They're from, a lot of times they're from here. And so their identity is a lot harder to hide from this. And of course, you combine that with some of the tactics that come from the mainstream media as far as following these jury buses, trying to get driver's license plate, to identify these people. That just adds to the security breach that could be on these individuals. And you know what? I wouldn't want to be in their shoes as well, having to make a decision whether or not Kyle Rittenhouse will spend the rest of his life in jail. This is something that I don't think any one of us would want to take on. But if the evidence is there, and that's exactly what they want to do, but they fear issuing that verdict down in fear of retaliation, that's a completely different story. It really is. We are seeing a little bit more police on the scene. Let's see if we can swing that camera around, Joe. Swing it around that way. I've got, it looks like a group of about a dozen police officers have gone to the corner of Sheridan and 56th Street, which, when you got the police officers there, obviously the media, as you will see here in a second, has followed them as well. They're setting up a makeshift perimeter to probably prevent. Now they're escorting someone off the property right now. They have taken whatever individual, and now they're running. They've taken whoever was there on the corner. They have gone up to that person and walked them away. We don't know at this point who that is, but you can see the media, the still photographers for the most part, have gone over there and they're now surrounding that individual and the police officers there. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Obviously, that is something, you got to think, who is that individual that would, here comes a police wagon here. They're probably going to swing that wagon up. I'm expecting they're going to pull that van up next to the crowd and put that suspect in there. But you got to wonder exactly who that was that would draw that much law enforcement around and then so quickly move them away, because when they first walked over there, it was just one individual standing at the corner. With that said, who was that individual that created that much commotion about. I think that's a great question right now, because we've seen a lot of people walk up to this area. We've seen a lot of individuals come up to this area, but we've yet to see any response to someone like we've seen right there. We've seen cars pull through here that would, yelling stuff out. Well, perhaps let's see if we can make our way over there. I'd like to see if I can get over there before they leave. But we've seen cars pull up here from time to time and not get, a lot of police activity like this just had. So it's interesting to find out exactly who that is over there. We'll make our way over there. Hopefully we can somehow get an idea, or maybe talk to somebody that was there that can maybe give us an insight of exactly who that is that the police apprehended. If you're just now joining us, we are live here in Kenosha, right outside the county courthouse, awaiting day 3 of deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. It's been going on for a couple of days now. Let's see if we can make our way up here to get an idea of who we're looking at. Let's see. Looks like, okay, they're walking the individual over to the next cop car. I don't know where you're at. Looks like we have a white male, long brown hair, getting escorted in the back seat of this police car. Obviously, with the hypersensitive nature of this case, anyone that seems to be a risk or a threat to this area will be apprehended. And that's exactly what has happened right here in front of us. So we have looks to be a white male, long brown hair. Age-wise, can't speculate on the age, but it looks like in the 20s, younger, bearded. But props to Kenosha police, because we've seen a lot of different characters walk up to this area, and I got to say, they apprehended this suspect, whoever it is, fairly quickly, in a way that you'd want them to respond to someone that might be a threat to this area. So there we are. That individual's been taken away, and you saw it right here as it happened. All right, we'll make our way back to the. Okay, I'm hearing this, and I can't confirm it. Allegedly, this individual had a firearm on him. That's what I heard back from one of the independent journalists that were running around here. So apparently, they did apprehend someone with a firearm on him. Now, whether or not who he is, what was his motive, that's yet to be determined. We don't know that. Maybe that will be released later in some type of statement by the Kenosha police. We'll find out more about that. But that does give you an idea of. Hang on, Joe. I'm going to go to make sure you don't get hit by a car here. That does give you an idea of how emotional this situation is right now, that you could have an individual walk up to this courthouse with a weapon. I mean, that's some rather serious stuff there. And it just, I guess, brings the gravity of the situation and what we're all faced with here. And if that isn't any indication, and we'll get a good shot of everybody coming back. It gives you, when I say that everyone exited this courthouse area other than the individual on the microphone right now behind us, is true. It was a kind of a mad rush to find out exactly who that individual was. And we knew by the amount of police that was headed that way that that was someone that they wanted off the streets. And that's exactly what they got. Time-wise,
commercial, you know. Okay, we're going to be, at the request of the jury, we're going to be breaking for the night. And anything before I bring them down? Okay.
Thank you for calling Shopko Optical.
Okay. I gave them a free commercial, you know? What? Where is the meeting in as well? Good evening, everyone. You've certainly put in a full day and have asked to retire for the evening, which is fine. And I'm going to ask that is 9 o'clock okay again tomorrow? Okay. Any questions, anybody? Now, does it pertain to your deliberations at all? As opposed to mechanics about
Just whether or not I can take something home.
whether or not
I could take the jury instructions home.
can you take the jury instructions home? Yes. Yes, but you obviously can't talk to anybody about them. Yeah, yes, you may do so. And any question? Okay, same rules. Don't read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial, and don't discuss the case with anybody. And we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the evening. Are the alternates in the library? Caleb?
The records clerk sent you a
If you suffer from high blood pressure, high blood sugar, being overweight, or if you or a loved one are fighting type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, you must see this. This discovery could save your life. Top doctors from the American Diabetes Association discovered a simple method which
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Well, actually, no, because they could do that at home without having the paperwork. And book there that says the PAC defense. So I know it is reading matters. But now the record will reflect that it's probably a bad habit to ask the jury any questions. You can do that. You can get away with that a lot, and then all of a sudden you learn your lesson. Although I don't think there's any harm done. But I typically do that, as you know, throughout the trial, and I don't usually have this situation. But anyway, and then I did it a second time. But anyway, the record will reflect that when I asked, when the juror inquired if she could take the instructions home, which also means can they take the instructions home, I didn't see reaction from the state side. I did see a wag of the head by Mr. Richards urging me to say no, but I did it anyway. So, did you want to make a record on it?
I'm afraid it's going to be the old dictionary game, and they start defining words and things like that, the outside research.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Well, actually, no, because they could do that at home without having the paperwork, and instead they have the wonderful, concise jury instructions that I have to say, I don't know about you guys, but I watch a little TV in the morning and in the evening, and some of the greatest legal minds in the country, I'm delighted to say, agree with us that the instructions are very confusing. But
the only thing I would say is I don't think it would be appropriate for them to bring their notes home.
No, you're right about that. No notes to go home. That's correct. So no notes to go home, but they may take their instructions. If they have notes on their instructions, I'm going to let them take those. Okay? Anything else? Okay. See you in the morning. Thank you.
It's 1:54 here in Kenosha. Glad you're joining us. We have been bringing you coverage outside the courthouse. We've seen all types of activity here. We've seen people obviously for a guilty verdict in this trial. We've seen people who are adamantly against a guilt, that are for a not guilty verdict, and mainly because they feel like this is a chance to make a stance against the violence that we've seen on the streets across America last summer. This is a defiant, stand against, we're not going to tolerate the violence. We feel like that this administration, the Biden administration, has encouraged this type of behavior when all of a sudden, culturally, there's groups of people feel like justice was not served, then it's okay to become violent. And that is one of the things that's one of the biggest issues here. It's just about, you have the right to protest. Yes, you have the right to assemble and march. Yes, but you do not have the right to destroy personal property in the name of social justice. And that is the overwhelming theme. And we talked to several people here, and I'm not going to name who we talked to. I'm not going to point them out right now, but it's very interesting how a lot of the people that we talked to on the air admitted to having some type of criminal background. We had one individual a couple days ago say that she proudly looted, she proudly broke into businesses and destroyed personal and property. She glorified that, and the fact that violence was necessary in response to what happened to Jacob Blake, which by the way, that's what the whole Kenosha violence and marching stems from the Kenosha, from the Jacob Blake trial and what happened there. So, but for people to justify their right to break the law, to basically, disregard personal property, private property, business, that's just inexcusable. And I think this case, in a way, is a clear, put the flag in the ground that this is not going to be tolerated. And this will send a signal across the country that, don't think that you're going to destroy property and be able to get away with it under the guise of just, we're angry at whatever's happening socially. If you want to talk about the legal system, it's interesting. We've seen a lot of chants about how, corrupt the wheels of justice are in this country, and people are not treated fairly. And you and I both know that that's not true, because we've seen dozens of court cases where the wheels of justice did prevail and the facts of the cases were laid out, and a jury in whatever particular way basically found those people guilty of their crimes. The justice system in America works. And I'll just bring up the George Floyd trial. probably the one reason that all of the protests around America happened. If you think about it, if George Floyd incident would not have happened, we would not have BLM. You wouldn't have a lot of the organizations and the events happening around the country. So the wheels of justice do work, and that's a great example of it. And it was a heated trial. It was a racially involved trial, being that the victim was black and the defendant was white, so that did have a racial aspect to it. This trial does not have that. Everyone involved in this trial is white. So you got the aftermath of a verdict that if groups don't like it, they feel like they are justified in creating violence and creating destruction in their community. And that's what this is about. That's exactly what this is about. But the mainstream media would want you to think that it was about race and that it was about, white supremacy. And we all know there's no links to that as well. If you kind of look at the timetable of all of this, and we said this a few minutes ago, and I was just listening to some people as we were walking back from the police car, is that they really don't think that we're going to get a verdict today. One guy says this is going to go into 2 weeks, and I was like, well, I don't want that to happen, because I think the anxiety of this community is high right now. You've got local businesses, you've got schools in a situation where no one wants to get, quote, back to business, end quote, until this has some resolution to it, because there's so much uncertainty of what will actually happen as more and more focus gets built on this. More and more attention gets built around what's happening here. There's a lot of anxiety, and I think that's what they want to move past in this community. I talked to an older gentleman. We met him walking towards the courthouse. Said he's lived here for 30 years, and he's never seen the crime, the violent crime, the non-violent crime like petty theft, breaking in cars, up to people just getting shot on the streets like he's seen now in Kenosha. So this is something that's very concerning to people who live in this area, in that this is a chance, an opportunity for the governor, for the mayor of Kenosha to step up and nip any type of violence in the bud. Just nip it in the bud, because you don't need it. It doesn't serve your community well at all to enable people to destroy their own communities. It doesn't make sense. I've spoken to many people here from the Black Lives Matter organization, and we've asked them point blank, does destroying your community make anything better? And they've all denounced any connection to the people burning down businesses. Says they're not a part of Black Lives Matter. They're separate from us. They are just opportunists that have come up and try to, be disruptive and take advantage of a situation. In that case, that might be the case. You also have mention of Antifa. And I think it's important to point out that they are quickly dismissive of any connection or relationship with Antifa. And I think that's smart to do that. They denounce any type of relationship with Antifa, because we've seen exactly what they have done across cities in our country as far as politically getting involved, and also involved in social justice stuff like the riots and the looting that come off of these high-profile cases. So you've got that. I really just, in a way, feel I'm very sympathetic to the people who live in Kenosha right now. They've had to deal with this for going on 2 years, a year and a half, and it's just it's really unfortunate that they have to deal with this. You got kids that aren't in school right now, not because of COVID, not because mask or vaccine mandates. It's because they don't feel safe going to school, because a group of people might get mad that a court case did not go their way, and next thing you know, there's violence in the street. That is unacceptable in today's America, but that's where we're at today. So the people of Kenosha, and really across the country, at that matter, are living under a heightened sense of pressure. If you live in any city that's had types of high-profile criminal cases, and it all goes back to the police, the defund the police movement. Any police-involved shooting is what's really sparked off all of this. We can go down the list. There's been, a dozen of really high-profile cases involving police shootings and justified force. Just to look at the premise of a lot of these incidents is people don't comply, and they feel like they were singled out because of their race, when many times someone was responding to perhaps a domestic disturbance call, one of those things where it doesn't matter the race. You show up to handle the situation, and by someone not complying with police, they find themselves in a situation that can get, deadly. And those are choices that people make, but those choices are also based off of their experience in their community. You look at the fact that you've got, a breakdown in the nucleus of the family. You've got poor leadership in the community. You've got fatherless homes that are, kids that come out of homes with no fathers are more likely to get involved in illegal activities or find themselves incarcerated. That's a fact. The stats all back that up. So when you combine a lack of respect for authority, and you combine that with a situation where someone is involved with a engagement with police, then you get unfortunate incidences like a police shooting that in the eyes of the police are ever so much justified in doing so. So and there's so many different cultural things that come into play here that has led us up to today. And I think the breakdown of the family is one of them by far. It is one of them. It's probably one of the biggest indicators of why we have such a fractured culture, and why we have such a lack of respect for authority. Hey, if you're just now joining us, we are live outside the Kenosha courthouse. You're getting a live look at some of the demonstrators out here in front. I will say this: the crowd seems to be a little smaller than normal, maybe because it's 32 degrees outside with a little bit of wind, so it's not one of those situations where is conducive for people to come out. We now see a mother with a small baby, and I'm like, not sure this is the place to bring a small baby out here right now. Just looking out some notes here to make sure I'm not missing any details that might be breaking out of the courtroom, because this is one of those situations where you've got there's a lot of parts of this hearing that you just simply cannot see at this point and cannot follow, and we're just waiting for the judge to come out and make a statement involved with this case. Breaking news here. All right, so I've got some breaking news in regards to the deadlocked jury is now requesting to see the fortified image of Kyle Rittenhouse from the prosecutor's photo. Here's a note. It's question number 5. They were requesting to look over some photos. So more video evidence being reviewed here. Let me see here. Just making sure we don't miss anything. Yeah, so they're just still reviewing evidence, which is pretty much protocol at this part of the trial. Oh, we got the McCloskeys here. Okay, let's see. Let's Miss McCloskey. How you doing?
How you doing today?
Well, we meet again, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that. I saw that on the web the other day. So
we want to get your thoughts on day 3 of deliberations here.
I did not expect it to go this long. It's a little concerning. I also a little concerned that the jury can hear all of this and that it may have a really chilling factor on the outcome.
What's your thoughts on the MSNBC reporter that got caught chasing the jury bus?
Well, you know what I heard on the way back up here today was that he claimed he was with MSNBC. Has MSNBC acknowledged him yet?
That I don't know.
Yeah, that I don't know either. But I thought it was interesting that they got banned from the courthouse, so there must be some pretty good evidence of it. But I mean, tracking the jury, wanting to go take pictures, if there's ever any evidence or the definition of jury intimidation, that's it. But this is as well.
What do you think about the jury reviewing the drone footage that was presented in the high resolution, low resolution? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I've been a trial lawyer my whole life, and the concept of the opposition hiding critical evidence from you until after evidence is just reprehensible. That everything that I've seen the prosecution do in this case, from commenting on the post-arrest silence of the defendant and then sneaking in evidence after the close of evidence, is just reprehensible. The judge, I thought, was very restrained. If anybody in any of the trials I've been in tried anything like that, the first time the judge would say, "You do that again, you're going to jail."
Can you speculate on how long this is taking? Did you think we'd have a verdict by now? And what do you think the timeline of this is?
You know, I thought we'd have a verdict in the first few hours of deliberation. I'm concerned, obviously, in what we do for a living, the longer the verdict takes, the better it is for the plaintiff. But, you know, the philosophy is in criminal cases that the worse it is for the defense. But you never know. Obviously, people saw what happened here last August. The jurors are hearing all this nonsense out here. They're going to be concerned about what's going to happen to the citizens of Kenosha, and they have the fate of one man in their hands, but the fate of the city as well. And they know that, and how that plays out in their minds, you can't predict, I can't predict. I wish they didn't have to have that choice.
What's your thoughts on the governor deploying 500 National Guardsmen? From what I understand, they're a little closer to Kenosha right now than they were yesterday. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that if he'd done that August 25th of last year, we wouldn't be here today.
What do you think about the judge throwing out the weapons charge?
Well, you know, from what I understand, the weapons charge required the gun to be a short-barreled rifle, barrel less than 16 inches. A 5-year-old could have looked at that gun in the first photograph and seen that it was not a short-barreled rifle.
What about you say about the defendant hanging over the judge?
Defendant hanging over the judge?
Yeah, the individual.
What do you mean?
Well, he was bending over the judge and they took a photo or what have you.
I don't know.
Freaking out evidence, that's nothing. Have you ever seen that happen before?
I've not seen it in this case. I must have missed that picture.
What's your thoughts on a lot of the media is painting this as a racial issue. This is about white supremacy when there hasn't really been any factual documentation to link white supremacy to Kyle Rittenhouse. But what's your thoughts on that? Because it seems like this is a racial trial.
The media has made it that. Obviously, all the people involved in this were Caucasians. The president of the United States, when running for president, called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist with absolutely no evidence to support it. This is a media narrative-driven issue. Has nothing to do with what's actually going on in that trial. It's not a racial thing. It's a young man who came up here to help out his fellow citizens that got attacked by other white men. And there's no race involved in this at all. But without race involvement, you guys wouldn't be here. These people wouldn't be here. I'd still be here because it'd still be a Second Amendment issue.
Yeah. Sir, there's some people, there are reports that the jury is a little bit intimidated about the crowd outside. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Wouldn't you be? That's my thought about that. I mean, they can hear it in there. They have to, and I was saying to this gentleman, they've got to know that the fate of the one man they have directly in front of them is one thing, but the fate of the city is another, and they can't be ignorant of the fact that there are threats being made. And this is jury intimidation. It's intended to be jury intimidation, and it strikes at the very basis of Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-American jurisprudence going back to the 13th century. And to have this kind of intimidation going on is just reprehensible to me.
Why do you think a guilty verdict would bring violence would bring nonviolence, but a non-guilty verdict would bring violence. Why is that the case?
I've never seen a civil riot of people come. I don't think I'm going to be a very effective rioter. Let me say it that way. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm not screaming. I don't hear any. It seems to be very one-sided up there, and so I would not anticipate that a guilty verdict would inspire who. I don't see any rabid pro Kyle Rittenhouse rioters here waiting to torch things. It just doesn't happen.
But an innocent verdict will bring violence throughout the city.
And why is that?
Possibly throughout the nation.
And why would that be?
The reason being is because they know a lot of black people get into their emotions, and a lot of black people will go out and burn stuff because they feel that they don't have a voice. But that doesn't solve anything.
What does this have to do with black and white?
It has absolutely nothing to do with it, but for some reason we have the media that will bring that into it.
If the media, if all you folks would report the real story instead of making it a black versus white media event, the city of Kenosha wouldn't have to worry about this. The city of St. Louis wouldn't have to worry about this. If the facts of this case were actually accurately portrayed by the media, this would not be here.
So what about
Sorry about hitting your mic all the time.
Biden saying that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist because he interjected that as well. President Biden, Kamala Harris, Maxine Waters, in connection with the Derek Chauvin case, we're all fanning the flames. They're all, Maxine Waters is saying that the jury isn't what we want. If the verdict doesn't come out the way we want, we have to be even more confrontational, inciting riot. It is, they believe that the mob rule will intimidate people. And I've said this before, the mob is being used like the brown shirts as a intimidation arm of the left. So one last question. What do you say about Antifa and BLM being known as the foot soldiers for the Democrat Party?
I think I just said that. I think it's, I believe that. Anyway, I'm gonna do my walkabout. Thank you very much, guys.
There you have it. Mark McCloskey running for Senate, making an appearance here in front of the courthouse. Spent a few moments with us, answered some questions, despite a lot of the criticism here. Let's see if we can drop back in.
Their duty to protect people and arrange for domestic tranquility. What happened here last year was only happened because the government failed to protect people against the mob. When the government abdicates its duty to protect people against the mob, then the people have to defend themselves and take their own defense into their own hands. And that's one of the primary reasons I'm here. This country is dissolving into lawlessness. We live in an environment of violence, a disregard for the rule of law, a disregard for respect for civilization. And that's why I'm here, is to support law and order, to support the concept that everybody in this country used to live with, that we all pull together in the same direction, that we're one people, we're one race, the human race, and we're all pulling together to make tomorrow better than today. This kind of nonsense that's going on here is not about unity. It's not about making the future better. It's about division and frightening people and intimidating jurors.
What about Philando Castile? Did he have a right to bear arms? What about Philando Castile?
As you can imagine, him and his wife will be followed, I would think, across the street. We've got traffic impeding here. Answer some questions. Okay, he did not skirt, I don't think, any issues about what he was asked. I mean, he pretty much laid out the right to defend yourself in this country, and the right to bear arms, and thought that a lot of the stuff that we heard right now, being a racially driven case, was inappropriate. It doesn't apply to this case. This is not a racially driven case, but yet they're in our country right now, and I've heard that somebody scream this, racism is profitable in this country. There's people who make a living on racism, and unfortunately that seems to be the case many times. So a few minutes with him. It is 2:17 here in Kenosha. We're going to continue to monitor the situation here. Now, we're going to try and provide as much coverage when this verdict is announced, and we don't know what time that may be. So I just want to encourage everybody to stay in touch with our social media, stay involved with us online. We will continue to bring, when we know it, you'll know it, and then, of course, the world will know it at that point. So we encourage you to stay involved with our social media. You can follow me as well, Brian Glenn TV, across all of our social media platforms. But better yet, make sure you're following us on our Twitter feed, our Instagram feed, our Facebook, our Rumble page. Subscribe to us on Rumble, subscribe to us on YouTube, and definitely download our app. Go to your Apple, your Android store, and download it. It's absolutely free, and what a great resource to be able to follow everything that we do right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. I encourage you to go to our website as well, rsbnetwork.com. That's rsbnetwork.com. Sign up for our newsletter. You know, we've got great patriots like Mike Lindell over at MyPillow, and there's not a better patriot right now in our country than Mike Lindell over at MyPillow. He has fought for your elections. He has fought for your freedom, your liberties, and let's help him out as well. Go to the website, mypillow.com. That's mypillow.com, and shop away. Folks, Black Friday's a week from tomorrow. The malls will get crazy. Those deals will get crazier. People will be in line fighting one another to get that stuff. Avoid all of that and go to mypillow.com and look for, and you can search through dozens of items there. We're talking about the Giza sheets, the flannel sheets, the dog beds, the mattress toppers, the famous pillows, the slippers, the towels. They got them all right there at mypillow.com. And don't forget about that magical promo code RSBN at checkout. You get up to 66% off your entire order. And I've said this as well. Go to mystore.com. Thousands of products there. Look, you want those products shipped to your house in a fast, efficient way and save money? Go to mystore.com, mypillow.com as well. Put that promo code RSBN at checkout. Also, and clear transparency, a portion of those proceeds goes right back to this network and helps us do what we're doing right now, covering the stories that are impacting our country. That's what we do. We're an independent news outlet, conservative-based, faith-based, God and family first. So you can definitely help out this network by buying those great products over at mypillow.com, without a doubt. I know that we'll continue to monitor the situation here. We don't know. Perhaps my bet was we'd know by now if we're going to have a verdict today. We haven't heard that from the judge. I think the judge would give about an hour or so notice, a heads up, if we were going to have a verdict, in order to call in the National Guard that is close by to make sure they can patrol the perimeter. We thought that would happen, and we might get an hour or so heads up on that. That has not happened yet, and we're going at the bottom of the 2 o'clock hour here in Kenosha. So I tell you what, I'm going to take a break. Continue to follow us on social media. That's where you're going to see the biggest updates on social media involving this case. We also want to know your thoughts on it as well. Get involved in the chats. Let us know your thoughts on this case. Do you feel like Kyle Rittenhouse protected himself or protected his life engaging in the Second Right Amendment, or do you feel like he violated that and took the death of two people? It's all up to this jurors inside here, and we heard a little bit from Mark McCloskey talking about the security of these jurors and the security of this trial and the intimidation. He says if you don't think they can hear them outside, now, I don't know if they necessarily physically hear them from inside, but I think they see a lot of this stuff on social media and on the news. So when they get home at night, they can turn this stuff on and see the intimidation that's behind us that might affect their decision in this trial. All right, I'm going to step aside. We'll close it out. As a reminder, follow us on our social media. Stay engaged. Most important, get involved and pray for our country in this very difficult time. Reporting live from Kenosha, Brian Glenn, Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll see you soon.